goes to dark in some crazy games. So who do you think is going to come out of Group B? We've got Dewalt, Ziki, Tech, and Cross. And Ziki last season was the first time he played BSL, or at least in recent seasons, and he looked really good. Actually, remember, Ziki took out Dewalt in the Race Wars just a couple weeks ago. Do you think Ziki might actually be the favorite in this group, even over Dewalt?
There's no way.
No way?
No way. Dewalt is my pick for sure to pick. That's how excited I am about Dewalt, dude. Dewalt's my pick to win this tournament for sure. But that being said,
to win the tournament, to win the whole thing.
I think so. I think Dewalt is on that skill level. I think he's really strong. I think there's only a couple other players that are on that level. I think Bonneth is one of them. But I think Ziki might be one of them. But I think Dewalt is just that much stronger than everyone. Now that being said, this group is going to be really hard for him. So many Zergs. He also has a random Protoss in the group also. I'm just kidding. It's Tech. So many really strong Zergs, Cross and Sziky. And, PvZ can be a really volatile matchup, especially in a best-of-1 situation. And Cross and Sziky are both incredibly strong players. And Crossy is incredibly strong in ZVP. So I think either one of them can actually 100% win a best-of-3 against Dewalt. And it's just really hard for me to call this group, because I think I'll say this. There's one person that has a lot to gain from this group. It's Tech. I think he has a lot. Like, if he does well in this group, he's going to be a hero, right? But the other three players are just so strong that it's really hard for me to call it. But I personally think Dewalt's like by far one of the strongest players in this tournament.
Yeah, every season of BSL, I always expect Dewalt to do really well. And then for some reason or another, something happens. Generally, what happens is he runs into Bonneth. And Bonneth just somehow just out micros him. I remember last season, we had Dewalt going for like 4 Reavers with double shuttle, and it didn't work out for him. He had the vision advantage, he had the high ground advantage, but it's just so hard to control. But now he's going to be going up against Tech, who I've played on the ladder before coming into Korea. Now, I didn't ever play him PvP, but what I remember about Tech was he loved heavy gateway style. So we may not see typical PvP here where you see a lot of Reavers. This may be something like, 2 gate into Forge, into Templar, and then mass gates. It could just be like 3 gate. Dewalt can play anything. Generally, I think what we saw last time was 2 gate Reaver. So I'm pretty much expecting standard play from him. But look at the win rates for Dewalt. An absolute monster, like 70% across the board almost, except for Zerg there. He's just so strong. And I agree. If Tech wins or gets out of this group, then he's going to go probably pretty far, because this is one of the most stacked groups you could actually ask for.
Yeah, we can't really stress just how stacked this group is. And like you said, if you look at Dewalt's stats, I mean, the thing is he doesn't have that many versus Protoss games, and PvP is a very tricky matchup, and especially in a best-of-1 situation, So I wouldn't be surprised if Tech kind of runs away with something crazy here. And the other thing is, look at, like you said, his win rates, but look at his first Zerg win rate. It's not as dominant as his other 2 matchups. And you got to remember, there's 2 mega giga Chad Zerg versus Protoss players in this group. So it's so hard for me to say assuredly that Dewalt is going to make it out of this group. I think he's still favored. He's that strong. But yeah, versus Tech, best of 1 situation. I think the map is going to be Eclipse, right? Just like the maps previously today. And on Eclipse, I think Eclipse is a pretty standard map. So that's good for Dewalt. It's not like one of those maps like Sylphid or one of those. It's not like a rampless map, really, is what the big deal is. Because rampless maps really add way more variance to PvP than there already is. So I think Dewalt is going to be really happy to be playing on a 1v1 map that has ramps.
Yeah. So we are going to get into our first match. It is going to be Dewalt versus Tech. Can Dewalt booster rocket just like Gornish did earlier, or is Chilean Hope Tech going to knock down Dewalt in the initial stages. In the top right, in the green, we have our Russian Protoss. It is Dewalt. And in the bottom left, in the pink, representing Chile, it is Tech. So I agree with what you said. High ground is going to give, you know, the better player a bit of an edge here. Stuff like 3-gate all of a sudden becomes a lot weaker. You can also put the Robo right at the ramp, get your Reaver in time in case there was something incoming that you needed to defend quickly. So I think we're just going to see what we saw Dewalt use in Race Wars, which is 1-gate opener or 2-gate opener into Robo. Now Tech, not familiar with, other than playing in PvP. You can see the Gateway Man, so I'm curious what he's got in store for Dewalt here.
Well, you know what he does, what Tech does PvP a lot is DT drops to Arbiter. So maybe he's a fan of DT openings in PvP. DT openings obviously the most variance thing that really dictates the build orders in this game, because it means you need detection at some point in your build, and if you skip detection to try and get an edge out on your opponent, then sometimes you can get punished by DT. So we could see Tech going, you know, for that route. Now Dewalt, we saw Dewalt play actually Boa on this map in Race Wars, and it was a really good game actually between the two of them, and Dewalt played really strong on this map, basically played super standard. Both players actually played standard. They went for that Robo Reaver into Nexus build, I think, or at least they went Robo into Nexus, so I'm probably expecting that from Dewalt. But yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, it's much harder, as you pointed out, as we keep talking about on this map, for Protoss to go for any kind of super Dragoon all-in. Because first of all, there's a ramp, but second of all, also the rush distances on this map are really far apart, and also the high grounds in the middle of the map make it so that both players have opportunities defending on ramps before the goons get to their bases. So again, I think this is a really good map for Dewalt.
Yeah, I remember the games of Boa versus Dewalt. They were close. The one game that Boa won with the 2-gate was very nice, but there was the other game where it did go into mid-game, and Boa was in a pretty good position. It's not like Dewalt is invincible in this matchup, so I think Tech does have a good chance here. We do see that both players have opened basically the same. Dewalt a little bit faster with his overall build, but I don't see a Zealot out for either player. I guess when you're able to scout that fast, you can evaluate whether you need the Zealot or not. Tech instantly went into range here. Now I see that Dewalt also spent his death, so this is just going to be matching range. We're really just waiting for a deviation here. I don't expect, as I said, anything shocking from Dewalt. He didn't just play standard PvP. I think it really is on Tech to make something happen. Now you brought up DT drop. Most of the times when I see DT drop, it's when somebody opened Forge and they want to get sneaky and go for a drop because most of the cannons are at the natural.
Yeah.
So I don't actually expect to see DT drop here, but hey, you never know. It's a possibility.
Oh, definitely not DT drop in PvP, but I think Tech definitely likes DTs, and as you said, it's hard to see any deviation before the probes get killed, and usually that's around when the third pylon comes down. So Dewalt finally gets the probe of Tech out of his base, and he puts down the Robo. Now, interestingly, neither player opened Zealots. Usually you do open Zealots in this matchup, 1 Zealot, 2 Zealots sometimes, just in case you get proxied, like proxy 2-gated or something like that. You really need Zealots to somehow defend. But, you know, both players kind of didn't think that was a possibility. And Tech, actually, I really like this. Tech getting an advantage here early because the Robo doesn't really instantly punish this Nexus. So if Tech can get Nexus into a bunch of gates, he's going to be safe. And he'll definitely be at an economic advantage, and Dewalt will have to make something happen with the Reavers to sort of equalize it.
Yeah, and I expect this to actually be Observer, because Dewalt probably feels like he's the superior player here. So he's going to be the one that doesn't want to lose to something stupid. And I think Tech is making a very intelligent move. He's probably aware of that. So he puts down the Nexus. it's going to be Observer and Support Bay, but I think for sure this is Observer first.
Yeah.
Now, the one dangerous move here is that this was a 3-gate follow-up. So that means that Tech is not going to be able to match the Reaver count. But he's going to have an overwhelming amount of goons. So as long as he can make sure he's not bottled up at his choke, you know, letting those Reavers get off huge hits like we saw in Dewalt versus Boa on this map in Race Wars, he's going to be able to easily surround the Reavers and take out the Reaver and goons, I think, because he's just going to have so many goons in comparison to Dewalt.
Yeah, man. And the thing is, like, this is PvP at work right here, and this is just there's so many things at work here, dude. How often do you think Dewalt goes for a DT rush in this matchup, like against Tech in this group in these circumstances? Best of one, Dewalt versus Tech. You think he's ever gonna go for DT rush? You think he's ever gonna go for anything that's not what he's doing right now, which is Robo into Obs into Support Bay into Nexus? Like, this is about as safe and standard as you can play as Dewalt, and Tech just totally doesn't care what Dewalt is doing and goes for the greediest 1-gate Nexus off of like 2 Dragoons into just a bunch of gates. Now, the thing is, Dewalt is playing a very standard style here, and even though Tech has clearly an economic advantage, Dewalt has a lot of room to play. Like, he's safe behind this pylon, this forward pylon with the Robo, with the Dragoon arc. There's no way Tech can just bust through this with a pure Dragoon. And at the same time, he's going to have that Reaver and shuttle speed much earlier than Tech ever would. So he does have ways of, he has a way of playing the game, which is exactly what strong players want, is catch-all situations, right? He's ready for anything. But Tech, I think, definitely has a good position here.
I think that Dewalt might actually be in trouble because this is 6 goons, 1 Reaver versus 10 goons. And he has no idea that they moved across the map. Look at him. He just barrels in. Okay, he's going to back off. He sees the Reaver. He's decided, nah, that's a little too much. But he may have actually been able to bust. Now, with that second Reaver out, no way he could bust through. So, nice turnaround from Tech. Now, just like in the Ghost to Dark game, I'm very watchful of the probe count. Despite having the faster Nexus, probe count is even. So Dewalt has done a good job to keep his probe count up and is actually in a more favorable position because he's got Tech advantage. Yeah. He doesn't have, you know, as many gates, but that's not a big deal because he will be building them up slowly. And there's no observer. So when the shuttle moves out, Tech has no idea when it moved out. So with all these goons out of position, easily a probe line could just get obliterated by a couple Scarabs.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to see this, like, the expanding player having fewer workers. Sometimes it happens because it's hard to say if this is a mistake, a mechanical mistake in terms of just not making probes, or if it's a decision-making mistake. A lot of the times, people that expand very greedily like this actually cut probes to compensate so that they can get enough infrastructure and workers out ASAP to defend. Now, did he want to get more unit? Did he cut probes to be able to defend something? Or was he trying to be aggressive onto Dewalt with these early Dragoons and it just failed? We'll never know. But he's now in a losing position from...
Well, I think this is a bad position because I don't even know if these Reavers will fire. Okay, this time this ramp is not one of those glitchy ramps where Reavers just, you know, move straight forward into their death. I actually thought that might happen there. So he gets 2 goons for free. Now he does need to be careful now because now he's going uphill and the observer has had vision the whole time. I think this might just be Tech's demise right here. There's 2 Reavers.
I don't know about that, dude. Tech has basically twice the amount of Dragoons and he has high ground advantage. This is going to be a disastrous fight for Dewalt, but he's still finding if the Reavers get really good connections, solid connections there. Holy, these Reavers are totally paying for themselves. That was incredible. Honestly, though, Nayokin, Tech had at least a control group or half a control group more of Dragoons and high ground advantage. So Dewalt's Dragoons were all missing a bunch of shots, but those 2 Reavers made the connections necessary to just get that trade and come out on top. And behind this, you can see Dewalt equalizes the gateway count. Tech has 1 Reaver now, doesn't have the 2. Oh my. The Scarab just duds. That was so unfortunate. And if he loses these Reavers, it's going to be massive. But look at Dewalt's micro, just impeccable. Completely cleans up all those Dragoons, but is he going to lose this shuttle? That was actually overall, I think it was pretty decent for Tech. He didn't lose any probes there. He lost 4 Dragoons for a shuttle and 2 Reavers. So I think he's going to take that trade any time of the week. You can see they're on even worker count now. And Dewalt still kind of with the blunder there. I don't think that was necessary.
Yeah, but still, Tech is in an okay position. Dewalt's still in an okay position. Those Reavers just did work in the first engagement. The Haymakers, they don't miss. And you can see why Reaver is such a staple in this matchup. Just like you said, there was like 10 extra goons for Tech, but doesn't matter. But here comes Dewalt, going to follow up his Reaver attack with some goons and Zealots. The Zealots will soak up a lot of hits, but Tech has Reavers for himself, 2 of them actually. So he's got the Reaver lead for now. Dewalt, I did notice, had 1 Reaver already done, probably has 2 done now. Look how many goons there are. There's just so many. But despite that, Dewalt's still up 15 supply, still up 5 workers. He's stopped building probes at around 48, so he's got perfect saturation. Tech has perfect saturation also for 2 bases. So Dewalt more than likely going to start taking a 3rd base pretty soon. I see that Temple Archive is done for Tech too, so we may be seeing some storm drops pretty soon.
Yeah, and this is the kind of moment in PvP where at some point someone's going to have to transition and play a bit more defensively, get off the Dragoon Reaver and get into more Zealot Archon Templar. Now, Tech kind of running up here with absolutely 0 vision on the high ground. Finally, the Observer makes it through, but it doesn't really lose any units. And, you know, at this point, it's just going to be a stalemate over. You can see the map kind of playing itself out. It's really hard for any player. I guess Tech feels like he can push through with these Reavers, and Dewalt doesn't have a Reaver here, but Dewalt has a really good arc. Is this going to be basically a reverse of the last fight where Tech makes up for the positional disadvantage with the Reavers? Finally, Dewalt's Reavers actually come in time. Is it too late, though? Look at Tech. He's actually pushing through here. The shuttle dies. Tech still has his shuttle, and he kills the 2 Reavers. Looks like Dewalt might actually lose this game.
He kills both the Reavers. He kills the shuttle. He keeps his shuttle alive. And now he's got Dewalt on the ropes. There's only like 6 goons left over. Remember, Gateway Man for Tech, he has so many gates. Dewalt also has 6 gates. Oh, he cannot lose the shuttle. Cannot lose the shuttle. This is what has saved him. There goes the Reaver. 2nd Reaver going to go down too. This was a bit of an overstep from Tech.
The 2 Reavers get out, get some shots. Tech kind of overextending. Look, Zealot speed actually kicks in, but Tech just throws away that massive advantage unnecessarily. If he just sat outside of Dewalt's base, waited for reinforcements, like I said, the Zealot speed just kicked in. His composition was going to change into something that was way stronger against Dragoons. Once you get the Zealot speed in there and Dragoon count is low like that, the Dragoons just aren't that good against Zealots, and he would have had 2 Reavers to supplement that, and instead getting so overzealous there throws away his massive advantage. That was huge. I mean, if he has the Reavers left over, it's just insane how far ahead he is. But now no longer does he have any AoE to work with. But look, he's typical Gateway Man here. Tech, Ghost to Dark, both hailing from the great country of Peru that always just churns out these super aggro Protosses. They're all really strong and scary to play against, and you can see it play out in this game where Dewalt is looking to take a 3rd base. Tech is looking to stay on 2. Oh no, actually Tech is actually expanding to 6 o'clock also. So interesting. It's so weird now. Dewalt's actually pulling ahead in supply somehow.
Yeah, Dewalt's ahead in supply, and I see movement on the left side of the map. I think that's an Observer from Dewalt, but if that's like a storm drop into the main, I don't think Tech is going to see it. It's moving pretty fast. This might be a double drop, actually. Reaver coming into the natural. Ooh, there's so many probes here. Oh my god, there's so many probes. So there's a handful of probes going down. Looks like that's not a drop on the left side, but okay. He's got to be careful. Goodbye, Templar, most likely.
This is massive damage now. You can even look at how much mining he's going to stop here. And the thing is, Tech has no counterplay to this. He doesn't have his own shuttles. He has no way of attacking Dewalt because, look, Dewalt is holding his high ground on his side of the map. So Tech just has to accept that he lost a bunch of probes, lost a bunch of mining time, and has no compensation for it. And suddenly, Dewalt, I almost had a heart attack for him because it looked like he was going to lose, but suddenly he's back in an extremely commanding position after Tech overextended with that attack of his. And at this point, I mean, Tech has an interesting base here. It's defended as long as he holds on to his side of the map, to his high ground. But if Tech ever loses his position here in the middle of the map, he loses this base for free. And Dewalt has such a massive supply lead. He's threatening a big attack anytime soon.
Yeah, 30 supply, 40 supply lead for Dewalt. About 15 of it is into workers, though, so about a 25 army advantage. But there is no storm. There is no AoE, or there wasn't. We do see that there are 2 Reavers out for Dewalt, but still no shuttle. Meanwhile, we see first couple Templars are out for Tech. So a couple of storms that blanket the army could be game-changing. But now with Archon out for Dewalt himself, that means Templar is going to be coming out pretty soon, too. I am still okay with Tech's position. Yes, Dewalt is for sure winning right now, but Tech is not down and out just yet. Also, I don't think bottom middle got scouted until just now, but unfortunately for Tech, his army is completely out of position, but this may just trigger a counterattack.
What's Tech doing on that side of the map? He's just running around. I guess he was trying to track Dewalt's army, but Tech gives up his 6 o'clock for this. Now, the only choice he has is to counterattack Dewalt, but look, Dewalt's already in position. The 2 Reavers are already dropped off from the shuttle, and Dewalt is just kind of preparing himself to defend this 3rd base. I just can't see Tech pushing through these 2 Reavers now. He does have a couple Templar coming here, so if he storms this shuttle, storms on top of the Reavers, there is a chance. The north side is the engagement for Dewalt is really good, but he gets a storm off onto the shuttle, kills the shuttle. The Reavers are still alive. They're still doing damage, and Dewalt massively wins the engagement on the north side, and Tech just GG's out.
Yeah, so GG coming in from Tech. Dewalt was on the brink of losing there. Tech so close to busting through, but a little too aggressive with his Reavers, so he's going to fall to the loser's bracket. But if Tech can put up a game like that versus Dewalt, I think he's got a good chance versus anyone else in this group.
Oh, man, I don't know how to feel. I feel so bad for both players almost, because Dewalt almost lost that game just like that. And then Tech threw that game 100%. He threw that game. He had such a massive lead after that fight. And instead of just consolidating his position and kind of waiting for his army with the 2 Reavers, the shuttle, and all the Zealots, the influx of Zealots and Dragoons, he would have 100% busted that natural. Because, I mean, Dewalt was only remaking Dragoons. He had no Templar coming. He had no Reavers coming. He didn't even have speed on his Zealots. And they were basically even on supply, with Tech having a massive army composition advantage. Plus an army supply lead, because actually Tech had fewer workers. So such a heartbreaking moment for Tech. And it's hard as a player to come back from that, because I think he probably knows that he threw that position away for sure. But Dewalt, again, as the favorite, kind of somehow survives a very dicey situation.
Yeah, Dewalt does make it out. He is going to be put into the winners round. He still has one more opponent to go through if he wants to make it out of the group. But now we're going to have Crossy versus Ziggy. It's going to be a ZVZ, and they are also going to be playing on Eclipse. I secretly hope that whoever makes it into the winners match loses, and then out of the losers match, a Zerg makes it out, so we can have a ZVZ on Optimizer, because I really want to see a ZVZ on Optimizer, because I think that would be such an interesting matchup. But we may actually get a PvP on Optimizer, and then we could see how both of these top level players end up using that extra gas. But for now, we've got ZVZ coming in. It is going to be on Eclipse. Ziki versus Crossy, same clan. So I'm sure that both of these players have played versus each other quite a bit. Crossy has improved considerably over the past year. And Ziki, I quit StarCraft before Ziki was making a name for himself. So I'm not too up to date with him, other than he has killer macro in ZVP, and he had impressive micro in ZVZ versus True Touch last season. So now that he's played a full season, he's got a lot of practice in. I'm curious how far he can actually go. He was #1 in the BSL ranking. You see it right there. He had almost 2,500 MMR, like absurd MMR. Yeah. And he hasn't even been playing that much since he's been back.
Yeah, and we also saw him play ZVT in that foreign All-Stars show match against what was like a 2,400 Korean Terran player, and he just completely dismantled him on Gladiator in a very standard game. So Sziky, I think just in general, just a strong Zerg player, strong macro player, strong fundamental player, but Crossy himself is extremely strong. Of course, Korean residing in Canada. And Crossy has just been practicing out of his mind over the past couple months. He also studies the game an insane amount. So he really is, he's just a really strong player. He has phenomenal Mutalisk micro. So I can imagine in ZVZ, you know, as long as they get a decent turn rate, I mean, this could be anybody's game. I haven't really seen too much of Ziki play in ZVZ. It's hard for me to say. I don't think there's a clear favorite here. It could really go either way. And I mean, what more can I say? I mean, it's ZVZ, so like, who knows what's going to happen?
Well, we're going to find out right now because we've got Crossy versus Ziki coming up on Eclipse. Let's see which Soul member will make it into the winner's bracket and take on Dewalt. So in the top right, in the orange, we have Ziki. And in the bottom left, in the red, representing Canada, we have our Zerg player, Crossy. So last season was a bit of a heartbreak for Crossy because there was a particular game that really even hurt me, and he was going up against a Terran player. It was versus Terror, where he was up 1-0. Then in the game, he went for a 4-pool versus a forward Rax, and the Marine somehow skated through into the bunker and survived. And then Terror ended up taking that series. So you know that Crossy definitely does not want to have something like that happen again. So he's going to have a hard time going up against Ziki, though, because Ziki looked really good last season despite not playing that much. I think he had, like, you know, there's two Zerg players that have the best Muta micro. I think it's Eon Zerg and True Touch, and he was matching the Muta micro from True Touch. So it's going to be very hard for Crossy to deal with someone like Zeke.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think we've seen Crossy play ZVZ recently in the Race Wars, and I think also the it wasn't in the Race Wars, but it was in that tournament that we casted. And he played a couple of ZVZs against Gornish, where he got into basically winning positions and just threw those games away, to be completely honest with you. Didn't really know how to play against Gornish's style. Now, I don't think anyone plays like Gornish, so that's definitely going to be really good for Crossy in ZVZ. And usually, you know, we're on Eclipse here, 1v1 map. 1v1 maps in ZVZ are really good in the sense that there's no variance in terms of one player getting the scout off and the other player not getting the scout off. So usually you play with the same information as the other player. Now you can see Crossy actually chose to go for, looks like an overpool, or actually it was a 9-pool speed. And then Ziki himself going for a 12-12-11. So instantly Ziki actually is going to have a pretty decent build order advantage here because he gets to get this hatchery and he gets the pool on time, mining gas off of it. It's going to be interesting to see if Ziki goes for the lair. If he goes for the lair first, I mean, Crossy's going to have a really good timing to do some damage with the speed because he went speed first. But if Ziki mirrors Crossy and gets speed himself, then he's going to be able to just stabilize with an extra hatchery, and Crossy will basically only have a small tech advantage to work with to kind of pull himself back into the game.
Well, look at this. Crossy's sneaking 6-lings across the map. Now, my mind's going to be blown. If he waits and saves up 6 more lings and then shows them to the Overlord, you know, Ziki's going to think this is only 6 lings coming at him. And then all of a sudden, 6 more lings show up. So I think that would be a genius move, but instead he's going to do something similar here. He's going to leave 6 lings on the ramp on hold position, so it looks like there's nothing out on the map, but we actually know there is. So Crossy's just laying and waiting for his moment to strike when these lings are out of position. For now, Ziki not taking the bait. Both players have their lairs at a similar time, but Ziki has the advantage. He's got his nat up. He's going to have, you know, a bit more larva available to him, potentially able to take that second gas. Well, when here we go. There go those extra lings. Now he thinks that this is only 10, but we know that it's actually 16.
Yeah, and if Ziki droned here too much, it doesn't look like he skipped too many lings, so he should be all right to defend this. The second hatchery production gonna kick in time. Look, he even pulls the drones. If microed correctly, these drones are basically gonna just serve as a buffer for Ziki's Lings, and I think Ziki actually gets a really good engagement here. Remember, the thing is he has 2 hatchery production here, so Crossy, regardless of, Crossy actually traded all right there, but Ziki's second hatchery kicked in just in time, and Ziki actually gets the scout off, sees the Spire timing here. Now Crossy's going to have a really nice advantage because Ziki had to actually basically commit to making a lot of Lings, commit to pulling the 3 drones off mining. So you can see Ziki doesn't have the resources to put down his own Spire, so I think he's going to be forced into getting spores at some point here. But you can see Ziki actually is going for the counterattack with the Lings. Crossy has a group of Lings of his own on the map waiting to counter, but Ziki knows, Ziki plays so solidly, man. He knows this is a possibility, only since half his Lings to attack, and now he's going to reinforce with all his Lings. He's going to have a really strong timing against Crossy before Mutalisks are out. You can see Crossy forced to get a sunken, so the damage is already done. Crossy's already only on 7 drones here.
There's so many Lings from Ziki, and actually Crossy did a good job with so little Lings to defend this ramp. Now Ziki's, well, still Ziki is not into the main base yet. Crossy doing such a fantastic job trading with these Lings. He's killed so many, and now this overwhelming amount of Lings that Ziki has, I'm not too worried about him actually busting through, but what I am worried about is that there's only 4 drones mining minerals for Crossy. Now 6 or 3.
Any drone kill here is a game ender, and he gets 2 drones. If he gets a 3rd drone, it's gonna be so hard for Ziki to come back. I mean, for Crossy to come back. Look, he's mining with 5 drones, Nyokin. He has 97 minerals, can't even queue up to, he has 87 minerals, can't even queue up. There we go. Does he actually make there's only one thing he can do here is make drones, and he's so far behind. This game's basically over. I mean, Ziki's on 2 base. Yeah, he doesn't have a Spire, but who cares? Look, he has 13 drones mining. He can just keep making drones off both bases and just skyrocket his economy. And look, Crossy, instead of making drones and trying to play this out, he's just trying to go all in. But why? Because look, Ziki's always going to have spores here. What are you going to do? Kill spores with Mutalisks? Like with Mutalisks off 1 hatchery off of 5 drone economy? That's not going to work. He really needs to start droning up. And the later he drones, the less chance he has of coming back into this game.
Well, it's not every day that you see 13 drones be tripling the other player's drone count. So it's now it's 12 to 5. I don't really know what the best option is for Crossy. If he drones, he's always going to be behind in drones simply because of the larva. If he goes mutas, there's spores here. So just between a rock and a hard place, what can Crossy really do? There's 4 spores spread out across both bases. There's really no angle for Crossy to do anything. And the 2 Lings get in, see that there's no drones. So he puts down another spore colony, and it's just pretty much Ziki's game to take. All he has to do is sit here, play passive, get up his Spire, and that's it. There's just nothing really he can do. Now, there is an angle here onto the gas. Oh, actually, because the gas is right up against the wall, he can't actually hit the extractor and not take any damage. So literally no angle for Crossy to deal any damage. So it's just a matter of time now before Ziki takes this game. You can see that Crossy's trying to go Ling Muta, try and use the Mutas to get rid of the Lings, sneak Lings into the main, but this is going to be his only chance of winning the game.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like this is such a repeat of some of the games that he played against Gornich. Just Crossy always, once his Spire is done, just playing so aggressively, never droning back up. And I feel like if he had just sat on 3 Mutalisks, 4 Mutalisks, and just droned up, he still has a sunken in his main. So it's not clear that it's easy for Ziki to counterattack in any way. If he makes Lings and Spores, he's not going to have a lot of drones. So I think, honestly, man, I think if Crossy just sat back and made drones early on, he'd still be fine. Look at Ziki. He's still only on 14 drones because look at how many spores he has to keep making. Meanwhile, obviously, Crossy would not have to make spores. He would not have to make sunkens because he has Mutalisks to defend the Lings. So, I mean, obviously, Ziki would have played a bit more greedy if Crossy had droned up. You can see Crossy finally going for that expansion, which is really the only play.
Is that an expansion?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he might try and sunken rush.
That would be crazy. That would be a bad idea, actually, but...
Yeah, like he has so few drones that I didn't even think he could afford a hatchery, but you know, the more I play Zerg, or the more I play Terran versus Zerg these days, the more I know that you don't necessarily need drones to afford a third hatchery or Nat in this case, just Zerg things. So it's not going to be a sunken rush. The Ling that Ziki keeps getting out on the map has just been amazing. He goes in and scouts every single time, sees there's no drones mining gas, so he's not worried about mass mutas anymore. So because of that, he starts droning. You can see he's up at 15 drones now. He's got almost double the workers still. I love the sunken because he knew that the only way to lose this game was if Lings sneak by. So the sunken has added defense versus Lings. And now with mutas out for himself, he's got his Nat gas up and running. What can Crossy really do? He's trying to get the Nat, but it's just a numbers game now. There's just going to be too much stuff for Ziki in the next few minutes.
Yeah, you're totally right, man. And the thing is, now you can look, if those 6 Lings that Crossy had were drones instead, this game, I mean, obviously Ziki would still be in a good spot, but it would look so much different as Crossy gonna show off his Muta micro here. But the thing is, Ziki just has so many Mutalisks, has so many Scourge, he can just run in here, and I think this is probably gonna be the end because Ziki gets in range, so he can just chase these Mutalisks down, as he also sends the Lings down into Crossy's base, and Crossy knows he can't run away anymore. He takes the fight, but he's down Mutalisks, so we're probably gonna see a GG soon. Now Crossy gets some Lings into Ziki's base, and Ziki likewise, but the thing is, Ziki doesn't have a sunken in his base. He's gonna kill the Spire for free. Meanwhile, Crossy does have a sunken in his base, and suddenly, I mean, the thing is, this Mutalisk counterattack is gonna be deadly for Ziki, but still, the worker count is basically even at this point. Crossy has his hatchery as well. Obviously, you can see Crossy's down on supply because he doesn't have 6 Mutalisks, so I think he's about to die to these the Muta counterattack that Ziki is about to mount here. But maybe a glimmer of hope for Crossy?
Well, he needs to connect with these Scourge, but Ziki's micro is okay. Never mind. There's 9 mutas, so 4 Scourge, not enough to deal with 9 mutas. And unlike Ziki, Crossy has no Spore Colony, so this is just gonna be him tapping out. There's no way he can stop 9 mutas. Overlord goes down. 2 more. Look at the control, man. Has a single Scourge connected? No. He just bounces left and right and easily takes down Crossy in this series. So that's going to be Ziki moving on to face Dewalt. And now we're going to have 2 powerhouses go up against each other. We already saw Ziki take out Dewalt in Race Wars. Did Dewalt get revenge in the second Race Wars? No, Dewalt didn't even play in the second Race Wars because Oyaji just killed everybody.
Yeah, I forget who actually won that first Race Wars. Was it? It was Protoss, right? It was Sziky. Yeah, Dewalt, like Sziky and Dewalt played 2 games, and I think Dewalt won the second game. So, or maybe they even played 3 games, and Dewalt won 2. Who I forget. But anyway, they played some really solid games. I can't tell who's favorite in this matchup, but I mean Sziky with a really clean kill there. Onto Crossy, and you can see Ziki. That's what strikes me about Ziki is he's one of these like really solid players that is not afraid of playing long games and has consistent solid decision making, right? Just plays so calmly. If you contrast that with someone like the Protoss players that we saw in terms of the more aggro players, even Crossy has this tendency to be a really aggro player, like Tech, for example, Ghost of Dark, for example. And even earlier today, when we saw Ziggy play, Sziky has that confidence to just play a really long game and make really good decisions, whereas these other players are a bit more overly aggro and they just want to end the game when they have that one opportunity. But Ziki, for example, in that game, instead of just counterattacking with all his links, he just kept a couple links back because he knew the threat of the hidden Crossy links could come and completely destroy his game. So that's what I think is really just impressive by Ziki's game, is that he's just so calm and solid throughout. And against Dewalt, I mean, they're both like that. I think the major weakness I've seen in Dewalt's play in this matchup, particularly that we've seen in the recent race wars and tournaments, is that Dewalt plays a really super expansion-oriented Bisu-esque harassment style, but when it comes down to the big fights, he doesn't micro that amazingly, and he loses the big fights a lot. And Siki is one of those players that is very calm and defensive and wants to get into those macro games. So I feel like Siki stylistically is in a good spot against Dewalt. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I also love Dewalt. I've talked about him for multiple seasons that I think he's one of the best. I'm always waiting for him to make it to the finals, but he never does. So maybe this is his season. So let's see if it's going to be Ziki or Dewalt making it out of Group B in first place. We are going to be going into the winners match. One player moves on. One player will move on to the deciders match. Reap the Storm is coming up. So this is a map that we both like. But PVZ should be a bit interesting because the Nat is very clumped up at top right. If Dewalt gets there, I think he might be in trouble versus Ziki. So let's see who makes it out. Is it Dewalt or is it Ziki? In the bottom middle, in the blue, we have our Russian Protoss player. It is Dewalt. And in the top right, in the white, representing Hungary, one of the best foreigner players right now and in previous years, it is Ziki. So we do have Probe going down to the low ground. We did see Dewalt mix it up. He didn't always go Gateway Expand. He didn't always go Forge Expand. We'll just wait and see what he wants to go versus Ziki. I think Gateway this expand is the way to go versus him in particular. I talked about it in previous casts, how Ziki just macros impeccably if you just let him sit there. So I think for sure Dewalt cannot let him just sit there. Dewalt got a good spawn though. Bottom right, you can fill up a lot of the area with cannons if there is a Hydra bust. Top right is very clumped up though. So nice spawn for him. Nice luck. What do you think we're going to see here? Is it going to be Gateway? Oh, actually, multiple probes queued up, so this might be a 11 or 12 Nexus.
Yeah, it looks like it's definitely going to be 11 Nexus here. The Gateway is obviously too late. And when you go Forge, I mean, the Forge can be a bit later because just by the nature of it, like, that's just how it works. You don't have to get your Forge down on the spot, like with the minerals. Yeah, you can see he actually goes for the Forge, so just kind of scared of a random 9-pool opening here, not going for that 11 Nexus. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm expecting to see. Honestly, Reap the Storm, personally, I would assume... this seems like a Zerg map to me in this matchup. There's just so many bases to work with. There's a lot of sort of area to move around. It's hard for Protoss to... You know, if Protoss commits to one side of the map, there's so much room for counterattacks. There's so much room for, like, guerrilla tactics. And there's just so many bases. And that's usually really good for Zerg. And the thing is, it's hard for Protoss to take a third base on this map. So,
yeah, very difficult to take a third base. It's very far away, and it is a mineral only. But the one thing that you do have going for you, despite having two angles of attack, is at least when the Zerg comes in, at least you have high ground, right? At least you can sit there and blanket a storm on top of them if they try and just run up with no vision. So at least you got that going for you as Protoss. But yeah, this, in theory, to me, should be a very difficult Protoss map, but we may just see Dewalt opt into something like an 8-9 gate, just go all in with it and try and bust through. But this is also not a map where I don't think it's necessarily great for Zerg either, because the third base is kind of far away too. If you take the mineral only, it's towards Protoss. We're not going to see that, but I don't know what to think about this map in PvC, really, other than the mineral only base going to be pretty hard for Protoss. We did see a couple lanes try and poke in to the cannon. Probes were pulled preemptively to prevent them from getting in, so nice hold from Dewalt. Now, the thing that I'm mostly curious to see is what's the follow-up, because didn't we see, like, Dragoons come in from Oyaji last week?
Yeah.
That might be something that we might actually see.
Yeah, and actually... You know, I thought that was a crazy sort of Oyoji build that he, you know, maybe it's his build, it's something that he plays, but I've seen pro gamers actually use that build, and it's really interesting because I think the idea isn't even to go and bust Zerg off those Dragoons, but it's just to get Dragoons early to kickstart kind of your death ball production, right? Because again, Protoss wants to work up to that. So basically, instead of going for the Zealot harassment, which a lot of times in this matchup doesn't always yield too much. I'm talking about the sort of standard Zealot speed push there. But instead of going for that, you kind of play a more power style and you go straight into Dragoons. And hold that thought for a second, because Ziki actually is getting Lair and Hydra Den at the same time, which is really indicative of one thing, and that's lurkers. And that on this map, especially with the open nature of the main, it seems like he's going for lurker drops.
Yeah, so on the profile screen, we kept seeing Tyler Byron as the name of these players. Now, for those of you that don't know, Tyler Byron is Tie 2. And this is definitely a Tie 2 build. If I see speed coming in for Lair or drops coming in. But so far, I only see speed for Hydras, so I don't think this is Tie 2 just yet. But I was actually in agreement. I thought that this was going to be a lurker drop. Yeah. But so far, that is not the case.
Yeah, that's weird. This build by Ziki is really weird then, because usually if you rush Lair, you don't need to get the Hydra Den that fast, because the Spire is going to cover like all the Corsair timings. And also you just have fewer resources. And the thing is, if you rush Lair, your Hydra Den is damaged slower, so you can't go for this big bust at the front. So this might... It's just weird build from Ziki. I think he's probably going to play standard from here. I don't think we can read too much into it. Just that it was kind of weird the way that he got into this, and it doesn't look like he's getting any Overlord upgrades here. So, you know, overall, I don't think this is an optimal way to go about this, but I don't think it's going to play too much into this game. I think Dewalt is going to scout this. He's going to be a bit confused, though, because, look, he has Lair, but there's a bunch of Hydras going out to his natural. The only problem is that, again, these Hydras don't have range, not for a while, so they can't just immediately bust this. There's a lot of time for Protoss. I mean, range is halfway done. Protoss has some time to react to this, so it looks like it doesn't really matter. Ziki's still going to force some cannons here, but meanwhile, Dewalt is actually going to get a couple kills on his Corsairs, which is massive in delaying the Zerg economy and the Zerg build just in general. This is actually a really weird timing from Ziki, but it looks like it can definitely win some games. I think Dewalt isn't going to drop a game for this, though, but he definitely has to make a couple cannons here.
Well, Ziki's going to get supply blocked, and those add up. Overlords are pretty expensive in the early stages. We do see the 4th and 5th hatchery, or at least the 4th hatchery has come down for Ziki. Look at the Ser microing that one Ser back to ensure another kill onto the Overlord. He does lose his gate and forge, but not a big loss. And now that Dewalt has evaluated that this isn't all in, he's not overreacting, he's not building 100 cannons at his natural, he is just playing it very safe and steady. He's got 42 probes to 22, so he was not worried at all. He did not feel like he had to cut probes at all. So actually, I think Ziki's in a bit of trouble, because this is basically full saturation for Protoss. All he needs to do now is start building up his 6, 7, 8 gate. But Ziki is one of those players that knows how to macro. He's already closed the gap, 44 to 29. Soon it's going to be 44 to 35. So maybe this was actually in Ziki's plan. Force out a lot of cannons. It delays the push for Dewalt. And as long as Ziki can get up 3 or 4 bases, maybe he feels confident facing Dewalt.
Yeah, it's so weird, man. Ziki's build is so weird, but it's gonna work out here. And as you said, Nyokin, forcing out the cannons to delay the push, because look, Dewalt had to make these cannons, and what does that mean? Those aren't gateways. So he's still only on 1 gate. He even had to remake the forge, going to double forge production. And the thing is, he was making Corsairs this whole time. So it's pretty obvious here that Protoss can't have 6 gate now, which basically means that, yeah, he's mining a bunch, but Ziki has a decent amount of time to sort of gain back that worker deficit. But still, look, he's still behind almost 20 workers, 15 workers, something like that. And even if he still has 1 minute to drone up, he's not going to be able to catch up, because by the time that minute passes, look, Dewalt's on 4 gate now, 5th gate coming up, he's going to have more gates. His push is impending here, and Dewalt really kind of got the better of that opening, mostly because the Corsairs got so many Overlord kills. Seriously, guys, I mean, those Overlord kills really set Ziki back. And look, he's only on 4 Corsairs. They didn't even have to get plus. Oh, he comes in with the DT.
Oh, he's gonna pop the Overlord, but the DT.
Oh my god, dude.
That would have been devastating. He would have gotten so many drones there. So a bit unlucky. Now a major upgrade just kicked in for Ziki, which is the Lurker upgrade. So if Dewalt was feeling confident about moving out, he's not going to be feeling that confident because Lurker's going to be in pretty soon. Robo's not done yet, but it looks like he wasn't expecting to move out with some type of Zealot Storm timing. That's a great storm. It's a couple of Lings and Lurkers. But overall, Ziki's still in an okay position. He's got top left, but the drone count is definitely lacking now for him, 55 to 32. I think with the Zealots pushing back the Hydras now, Dewalt should be confident to potentially try and take his own mineral only, but the first Lurker has been shown.
Yeah, and this build a bit from Dewalt is a bit slow to get started here. It's hard to say exactly what's up because he still doesn't have a presence onto the map despite having such a significant build order lead. I don't know if it's because he overmade Corsairs or if he didn't add his gateways. The thing is, now he has a bunch of probes, right? But when you have you remember we were watching Snow Games, he cuts probes really early, gets into that gateway count really early. I mean, the fact that Dewalt had that huge advantage just from the opening, but is still getting kind of Lurker contained here, is kind of problematic for him. I mean, you want to push out. The thing is, I don't think Ziki's going to get a massive contain before he actually pushes out of his base, but I think maybe he made too many probes. Ziki, despite being at a pretty significant build order disadvantage, I would say, I think he's being given way too much room to breathe in this game.
Yeah, top left is getting scouted basically by these Zealots. These other 7 Zealots out in the center of the map are just getting picked apart by these Hydras. So that's going to be a lot of supply just down the drain for Dewalt in any future push. 7-8 Zealots going down essentially for free. But look at those upgrades. Already 1-1 for Dewalt. I think the Hydras have +1 weapon themselves. But I am getting a bit worried that during all this, no third Nexus has gone down. Oh, there we go. That's why, because we've got a Templar drop into the main. If we still had that DT to combo at the same time, this would be amazing harassment. Goons moving out at the same time only kills a couple. Oh, he gets.
Oh, that was a massive storm. And man, I love watching Dewalt play PvZ. He literally plays like Bisu. I mean, he plays this super harassment style. The thing is, it looks like he's gearing up for a 2-2 big 2-base push, which is going to be incredibly hard for Ziki to stop, despite the fact that he's going to 4-base. They're both even in the upgrades, but that storm drop was massive in sort of setting Ziki back in terms of his economy. And you know, every time Dewalt does that, his push gets that much scarier. When Ziki just has that fewer economy to work with, it just becomes so hard to stop the 2-base Protoss death ball. And Dewalt's still up to harassing with these shuttles. Now, usually in many of the PvZ games that I've watched Dewalt play recently, he'd be expanding behind this, but still no third base. No, just now it does go up at the natural, or at the mineral only for Dewalt. So Dewalt playing kind of typical Dewalt PvZ here, harassment base into expansions. But honestly, Ziki, I feel like, okay, it doesn't get any drones with that storm drop, but I feel like Ziki, you know, he's in a fine position if Dewalt chooses to expand here.
Yeah, my eyes must be deceiving me, Gypsy, because wasn't Ziki down like 20 workers? So how is it possible that Zerg is even in supply? Like, this guy has incredible macro. I don't get it. Every single game we watch, he's even in supply. Now the shuttle gets taken out. That Templar actually didn't have energy the first time, so now it does. And he's going to get some type of kills, whether it's Hydras or drones out. Well, maybe not. But now Ziki has a supply lead, and he has less workers. So actually the standing army is stronger, and he has a lot of lurkers. I don't see that many storms. So he's got 4 base up and running. Protoss is just now taking their 3rd base. 3rd base doesn't have a 3rd gas. So everything's going right for Ziki right now.
Yeah, but here's the thing with this map is it's really hard to have one centralized position for Zerg to defend in terms of, you know, when you choose to go for lurkers like this. So Dewalt has, I mean, does he defend on the right side? Does he defend down the middle? Does he defend on the left side? There's many avenues of attack for the Protoss player here. And when Zerg chooses to go lurkers and this type of style instead of mass hydras, they do play much more defensively and they rely on just defending their bases, right? So, but the thing is, Dewalt's not the kind of player where he feels pressured to attack Zerg, he's always okay with just expanding here. You can see Dewalt taking that 4th base, bottom left. I really like that instead of the bottom right expansion, because his army is anyway hovering on the left side of the map to defend his mineral only. And it's going to be defending his 4th. But now finally Dewalt just poking in. I don't think he really wants to do any sort of push just yet. I think he's just poking in. That's a really great storm. Gets a lot of lurkers. If he chooses to do these lurkers, he's going to have a good opportunity to push into Ziki's 4th base. But still, Ziki has so many lurkers. Dewalt's microing this really well.
No, I think Dewalt's actually done it because he has so many goons and all those lurkers were clumped up. This is the angle that Dewalt wanted. He got so many storms onto all those lurkers. Now he also has high ground advantage here. He can sit here and just blanket everything with storm. That's a bit of a whip there, but the goons on high ground, so strong. 2-2 also just kicked in. So Dewalt, look at the supply swing now, up 50 supply. He's double expanding behind it. Still goons on the high ground, dealing so much damage. 4th base is wiped out. I think Dewalt is actually done. He just busted through.
Yeah, this was so clean from Dewalt. Just beautifully microed there. Didn't, you know, played super passively. He's just gonna clean up this 4th base. And the thing is, behind this, he has 4 base himself. He has a bunch of gateways. So even if the Protoss push runs out of steam, as we so often see it, you know, as we so often see happen in this matchup, the thing is, in this particular game, he actually has the economy to back up and re-macro an army. So I think Ziki slowly will be able to clean this up, but he's on 3 base. And look, Dewalt with his reinforcements, instead of committing to defend, you know, to rescue this army, he's just going to go for the counterattack, knowing that Ziki has to commit to basically clean it up, and Ziki just GG's there.
Yeah, so Ziki taps out, and it is actually going to be Dewalt the one to make it out in 1st place. He's going to be the first one out of Group B. But Ziki looked really good, catching up in supply. It was really the one final engagement that changed the tides of the game for Dewalt right there. I think what Ziki did was great. Like, as soon as he saw the Protoss units move, he instantly reacted, like instantly. You couldn't have done it any better. Just the problem was that all the lurkers were clumped up, and the storm did devastating amount of damage. But regardless, Ziki looks really good. Dewalt looks good as expected. And if you're taking out someone like Ziki, who's top tier, remember 2,500, #1 on the BSL ladder.
Yeah,
Dewalt is definitely looking like he's someone that can potentially do it this time, make it to the finals, something that has been evading him for quite some time now.
Yeah, that was remember, Ziki had such a weird build order in that game, and I think Dewalt was so far ahead already just going into the mid game, but Ziki stabilized somehow. And the thing is, it's such a weird dynamic in that matchup, because most Zerg these days, you kind of see them stick on Hydralisk and just pump out hatcheries, pump out drones, pump out Hydras, and they're always in this aggressive spot, and it forces Protoss to not always expand like that. But you see, once Ziki commits to making a bunch of lurkers like he did that game, suddenly he has to be much more defensive, because you can't just move lurkers across the map. And especially on that map, if you're expanding like that, lurkers they just don't hold the middle of the map that well, because there's so many avenues of attack for the Protoss. And you saw Dewalt kind of picked one side that was, you know, it wasn't all the Zerg forces there, and he just like kind of plowed through it kind of surgically with some pinpoint accurate storms, and the goons just cleaned up everything. So really beautifully played there from Dewalt. I was getting a bit worried that, you know, Ziki was kind of going to get into the late game on that map, but Dewalt kind of just masterfully plays that. And, you know, coming up, we have the first losers match, which is going to be Tech versus Crossy in a best-of-3, and that's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah. Yes, but before that, we're going to have a short break. It's going to be Tech versus Crossy coming up next, and the winner of that's going to be rewarded by playing a best-of-3 versus Ziki, so definitely don't want to miss that. Welcome back. We just finished watching Dewalt versus Ziki, where Dewalt just ended up crushing through with a really slick timing versus Ziki, but Ziki looked really strong. And now we're going to be going into the losers match, which is going to be a best of 3 Tech versus Crossy. Tech actually almost had Dewalt in the first game, so this should be a better match than I was anticipating. Crossy taken down by Zeke. We haven't seen Crossy in his EVP in a while, mostly because in the race wars we just saw Ziki just dominate through. So I'm curious what his level of EVP is, but this should be a good game. I think Tech has a good shot based on how he played versus Dewalt.
Yeah, I mean, Tech played a great game versus Dewalt. Again, he threw that game away, so he should have won against Dewalt. He should have been playing against Crossy on that Reap the Storm. But Dewalt, in Dewalt fashion, just smashes through his group. I guess, as expected, though, there were some question marks because this group is really hard, but he played phenomenal games. Actually, I meant versus Sziky, not versus Crossy. But anyway, so Tech versus Crossy. I mean, it's I haven't really seen Tech play PvZ that much, but I mean, Crossy's got to be really favored in this matchup, I think.
Yeah, Crossy is one of the players that definitely follows the meta, definitely pays attention to pro gamer builds. And, a few months ago, 973 was almost unstoppable. So I think that now that Protoss players have figured out how to play versus 973, Zergs are obviously going to have a response to the Protoss response. And for sure Crossy's going to be up to date on that. So our next map or our next matchup is going to be PvZ, Crossy versus Tech. First map is going to be Optimizer. And this should be interesting since we hardly ever get to see this map. So let's get into it. First map, Optimizer, Tech versus Crossy, best of 3, losers eliminated. Winner goes on to the next round to face Ziki in the decider match. So in the bottom left, in the blue, representing Seoul, we have Crossy. And in the top right, as the pink Protoss, representing Chile, it is Tech. So we are talking about how this map would be interesting in particular matchups, such as ZVZ in particular, with the in-base second gas. PvZ, this particular matchup, I would find it hard for this not to be Protoss favored, simply because you don't have to take a third base now to have 3 gas. And I think Protoss benefits more from the gas as opposed to Zerg, but you are more of the resident Zerg expert. What do you think about that?
Like, I'll say this, right? Just off the principle of Zerg, right? Just off the fundamentals of the race. Zerg's always going to benefit least this is not a map made for Zerg. Why is that? Because Zerg in all matchups, and just inherently because they have 300 mineral command centers, basically, just inherently because they can take more bases, Zerg has always had more access to resources than the other races combined. So, and especially, that's especially true early game, right? So the fact that they get more mineral patches, more gas to work with, is just kind of irrelevant for Zerg in all matchups. So personally, I think this map is just, I mean, who knows? I don't actually know what the statistics are on this map for Zerg, but this is definitely a really good PvZ map as well, because like you have more minerals to work with on your 2-base crazy push. You have more gas to work with, which allows you to get more goons, allows you to get a Templar or whatever you want. I mean, that it's massive for Protoss. So I think Zerg just doesn't benefit from this map as much as the other 2 races. Now, is it nice to have extra resources? Yeah, it's nice. But like I said, I don't think it's that big of a deal for Zerg. I'm going to be interested to see what third base Crossy chooses to take on this map, whether he's going to take nice block there from Tech. And Tech getting going for, is he going for a cannon? If he makes this cannon, it's going to be really not good for him.
I love what the BSL has done with the maps. You can see the BSL icon right outside of the base. It looks really nice. I was just thinking right now, what's something that, I wish they could the Brood War team could implement something that the players could put into the map. Like in StarCraft 2, you have your icon that hovers around the command center and hatchery and stuff like that. You know, in Counter-Strike, they have something like you can spray paint the wall. Imagine if I could just spray paint like Gypsy 9W as I like bust your Astro or something. Right? That would be hilarious. So I wish they would implement something like that. But back into the game, we've got Crossy going for 2 hatch here. We've got 230 gas. So this looks like it's going to be lair play. Now, remember, we saw Crack try and glitch a vulture through. That just never happened.
Yeah.
But you can glitch a drone through, and maybe he's got mid left planned out. Maybe he's going to go over there, try and take a free third base, third gas, and then potentially go into something like mass Muta. That could be an option. He's got 4 gases available once he gets a third base.
Yeah, dude. On the question,
he took bottom middle.
Yeah, he took 7 o'clock. You know what I would use those sprays for? I would just basically, if I ever play TVZ and wall my natural up, then Zerg just ling all ins a wall, just spray paint Nyokin face right in his face. Yeah. That would be so sick. I mean, they have that in Starcraft too, you know. Pretty jealous we don't get the same treatment, but it is what it is. Going back to this game, Crossy's going for that quick lair play. So standard build. Now, the thing is, Crossy, as opposed to Sziky, honestly though, I really did not like Siki's build order on Reap the Storm, and I think if there's someone that is going to have a really solid build order, especially for this matchup, it's going to be Crossy. Now, instantly mining out those minerals there, usually I wouldn't agree with it, because obviously those are the mineral patches that, you know, they have 250 mineral patches, right? So if you mine them out first, you lose all that time on the worker efficiency later. But for Zerg, it's different because obviously you don't have that many workers. And Crossy, to me, this telegraphs that he wants to open up that path so he can take up that mid-left base ASAP. So it looks like he's going to look to take that base, which makes sense. And that's going to be a free base. And I think this base really on the mid-left and just the middle bases in general are the saving grace for Zerg on this map, considering, you know, that inherently the boosted income does not really help them. But these bases are much easier for Zerg to take on the left and right side of the map than for any other race. So in that sense, and it's going to be hard. Well, the thing is, Protoss, it can also take good. I don't know, man. Honestly, this is a really good Protoss versus Zerg map, I think.
I think it's also got to be good. But we see that Tech actually just rushed Citadel. It's already done. So 5-minute archive coming up. Stargate's a bit later. But he got the probe in, so I actually saw what Zerg is doing, and he realizes that there's no issue right now. And this is going to be a 4th base, I imagine, going up for Crossy pretty soon. And what's nice about the mid-left base is you don't really have to defend it, because how is Protoss going to attack it? Zealot moving into bottom left. Not that many Lings, so he's just going to hug the bottom side of the map and get into that sweet. Oh, actually, I thought Lings could go through. Oh, they can go through the back.
Yeah.
So now the Zealot is just going to be taken out relatively easily, but not a lot of damage done. I wonder what he wants to use this fast Templar. There it is. Double DT queued up.
Yeah, double DTs. That's going to be interesting if he gets... I mean, these DTs are really early. It's 6 minutes in. There's obviously not going to be any Overlord speed, anything like that. So if the Corsairs, and then remember, Tech actually went for the Corsair opening. So if he gets the Corsair there and kind of snipes an Overlord or two, I don't know where his Corsair is. I guess it's... Did he even make one? It doesn't look like he has one out on the map. So pretty interesting here. But the DTs are going to come really quick. And I don't think this is going to do much. I mean, it's cross spawn. Like, it's going to have to... This Dark Templar is going to have to walk a long way. Basically, just, you know, on a pilgrimage to Mecca or something. The DT pilgrimage is walking over to the mineral line and swiping some drones. We'll see if he can actually make it through. But one random Overlord for Crossy in the middle of the map actually spots the DT, so he knows it's coming. It's very unlikely that this DT is actually going to do any damage. There's Overlords in position already at this base, and the natural as well. He also has Scourge ready to intercept any Corsairs. But, I mean, the Overlord's there. That's fine. There's no units to stop this DT from just walking by. The based Protoss walk into the main.
Yeah, DT's going to get free kills. So a DT that got spotted in the center of the map still somehow manages to get 4 kills. And remember, there was double DT queued up. We don't see any movement, I don't think, on the map from a second DT, but Crossy's got to be worried about a potential second attack at bottom left. We see it's not coming. It looks like the Spire might actually
the Spire's gonna go down, Nyokin, and
gone.
that's not good. I mean, yeah, the thing is, it's not the worst thing, because it's not like Tech committed to Corsairs or anything, but Crossy definitely will have to rebuild that Spire to have any sort of shuttle defense in the near future. Now, Crossy kind of not paying attention to his workers. See, this is what happens. This is optimizer, guys. You got to optimize your builds. Really pay attention, especially to your workers and where they're mining. But, you know, Crossy gonna fix that anytime soon. Tech behind this, as opposed to last game when we saw Dewalt having to make those cannons, you know, in response to the early Hydralisks, Tech had to make no cannons whatsoever. So already has 8 minutes in, already has 6 getting up. Zealots running into Crossy's base here. There's already a lot of, you know, there's 3 Hydralisks. The thing is, there's so many drones here that can block the Zealots. So, but Tech, if he focuses down these drones, he actually can do a lot of economic damage. We can see Crossy is already behind in the worker count a bit. So losing some drones here won't be good for him. But Hydralisks come in time to reinforce. Meanwhile, the DT in the main is going to swipe a couple more drones. The drones get pulled off of Crossy with some insane multitask.
Is this Tech or is it Dewalt? Because he's just everywhere. He's got attacks going at bottom left. Now they're at the Nat. The DT never got cleaned up. Now it's hiding again. So it's sitting and waiting. And probably Crossy thinks that it's dead, but we see that it's not. Now watch it walk in right now. There he goes. He knows. My. It is Dewalt. He's channeling his inner Dewalt. Almost killed Dewalt in the first stage. So this might just be Dewalt Jr. More drones are going to fall. 9 drone kills so far. He also killed the Spire. So what a value DT that is. And look at the probe count for Tech. He actually has the perfect amount. 42 to 43, 44 probes. That's what you want when you're on 2 bases. So there's no delay in any of his gateways coming in. He's just decimating Crossy. And now look, that was just Zealots. The next follow-up attack is going to be Templates. I already saw 2 or 3 sitting and waiting at the natural. So if Crossy's having trouble just dealing with Zealot, okay, well, here's at least what's going to save him for a little bit. It's got Lurkers coming down. I don't think we have Robo just yet, but Crossy is in big-time trouble.
Yeah, and Crossy got so fortunate with that last drone drill onto that DT, because that DT could have swiped a couple more drones for free, but he just got glitched out. So much value. Like you said, I've never seen a DT get, I mean, DTs get crazy value all the time, but a Spire on top of all those drone kills is absolutely insane. Now Crossy, look, he's so far behind economically, he has to spend so much of his production to make drones. Meanwhile, Tech, knowing this, is going to keep pressuring the Zerg with a lot of units. Now the one mistake I see from Tech is that he's still, you know, among all that harassment and among all that damage, he kept making Zealots instead of queuing up Dragoons and starting his big death ball. That's really all. Look, these Zealots, I mean, that's a lot of Zealots. Whole position Lurkers would be huge onto these Zealots. But he's going to lose all these Templar if he's not careful. And now finally the Lurkers get activated. Will get 1 Templar for free. The other Templar is really low. Misses the Storm. And see, the thing is, that's a lot of Zealots, but they suck against Lurkers. So the fact that he has like 20 supply of Zealots is just completely irrelevant here. And if these have all been, if these were all Dragoons instead, obviously he wouldn't have as many Dragoons. Dragoons, you know, keep in mind, Dragoons take way longer to make than Zealots, but his push would be looking insane right now. But suddenly, and again, back at his base, we see he's taking another base, but he still queued up a bunch of Zealots. And I always think back to that snow game we saw against True Touch Nyokin, because that was surgical PvZ play. And you know, he was harassing with Zealots, and as soon as he had time, queue those Templars up really early, and then once he was out on the map with the Zealots, just started making Dragoons ASAP. This is the one thing Tech is missing. His Dragoon kind of transition is a bit late, and because Crossy went for those really quick Lurkers, look at how much time Crossy has to drone back up. And I mean, obviously Protoss is in a good position here because look, they're on the same number of bases. Protoss has more workers and 3 base, you know, not substantially more workers, but he does have that 3rd base. But the thing is, look, Crossy, he's not out of this game despite suffering game-ending damage.
Yeah, Crossy's recovered quite nicely. It was 18 drones to 42 at one point. Now it's 38 to 43. So Tech is actually struggling to get his worker count up. It's still okay across 3 bases. This drop may actually be game. Okay, never mind. There's 5 cannons there, but if there were a couple less cannons there, Tech would be in trouble of actually throwing the game lurkers. All he really needs to do is eliminate those 2 forward cannons, and then he can actually decimate the center line. Looks like he's just going to try and jump on an 8 Hydras. Do they beat 5 cannons? Looks like the answer is no. But look at that death. Look at the death ball of Tech finally moving out. It looks like he's gotten his observer, and now he just wants to make a game-ending move to eliminate Crossy from this game. He did keep a couple Templars alive, so they've got Storm available. That's not a very good Storm, but he's got a 50 supply lead.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if he hits these Storm Thioken, because I mean, we're just intruding in on this game. But Tech was just slapping.
Was it GG?
Was it GG? No, there wasn't. I think we're
Was this right?
I don't know what happened, dude.
I don't know what happened. So I'm assuming that
that was GG, because Tech was gonna win no matter what there, right?
Yeah, I didn't see the GG come out. I didn't see Crossy actually engage the fight, so I'm gonna assume Tech won the fight, and we actually are gonna be. Okay, GG under the
overlay.
Okay, so actually Tech does win that game, so he's up 1-0, and he looked pretty good. I think, like I said, if you were to eliminate the player names from the screen, I would say 100% this was Dewalt, because the guys are all over the map. Like,
was it
just
Dewalt
everywhere.
or was it Bisu, dude?
Yeah, or was it Bisu? So Tech looks really good. There's real opportunity. Eliminated Dewalt in the get-go. So now he's 1 game away from moving on to face Ziki in the Desires match. And Crossy's got to get it together now, because this is most likely going to be, potentially going to be the last game for him. Next map, I think, should be Eclipse, right? And then if he wins there, he's going to be on Sylphid. So he's got 2 good maps for Zerg coming up for him. But Tech just looks really good today.
Yeah, Tech played phenomenally well that game. That DT just killed a Spire and like 9 drones, and then the Zealots came in and killed the other base, and then the Zealots came in and killed a natural, like just all over the place. Really sick multitasking from Tech. Surprising, because honestly, in my eyes, this is a really favored matchup for Crossy. And going into game 2, I guess we got a bit of a problem with the scores here, because I'm guessing Tech won last game, right? But Sylphid, so 1-0 for Tech, and Sylphid is going to be the next map. Now Sylphid, kind of your bog standard map these days. I don't think it really favors any of the races tremendously. Still, I would feel comfortable being Zerg on this map. But I think, everyone's played this map so much. I really can't say this is an X map, right? Like, I feel like any race can play on this map.
Yeah, and it is one of the most balanced maps right now. So Crossy has a good chance here. Tech just looks so good today that I actually think I would favor him a little bit here. So let's get into game 2. Can Tech take it? Can he move on to the winner's match versus Ziki, or is Crossy going to make a comeback here? But he's got to start doing it now, because this is it. He has no other chances. If he loses, he's going to be gone. So let's get into game 2. Tech versus Crossy on Sylphid. In the top middle, in the pink, we have our Protoss player. It is Tech. And in the bottom left, in the blue, representing Team Soul, our Canadian hope, it is Crossy. So Crossy, I thought he was in a good position, but just once the game started getting chaotic, everything just fell apart. But Optimizer is not a map that's in ladder, so I'm assuming there's not a lot of practice there. So now that he is on Sylphid, I feel like this is going to be a much better map for him. But because of how well the game went for Tech, I actually would like to just see him do the same thing, which is DT straight into fast Zealot. And that, maybe he can catch Crossy off guard again with that type of play.
Yeah, I mean, last game, it's hard to fault Crossy, really. Well, I mean, obviously he lost, but that was a really fast DT, man. 6-minute DT, it's out of the gateway. I'm assuming that means he must have built his Citadel as soon as the core went down, even though he also had a Stargate. I'd have to rewatch that game because I don't really remember exactly what the build order was, but that DT was incredibly fast, and you saw, even though Crossy had detection all over the place, he just didn't have units to stop it. And sometimes that happens. That actually reminds me, I remember I saw this game, I think it was Jongbi versus some Zerg. I think it was Sulky, like 2012. Like, kind of like, I just felt like watching some random game from the Kespa era, and Jongbi just did this crazy like 1 base 4 zealot 4 DT attack against Zerg. And it has nothing to do with that game, but the point is that he just killed him straight up because Zerg just didn't have that many units. So when your DT is that, and of course in that game he actually expanded, tech expanded, unlike Jongbi who went like 1 base basically. But the point is, when DTs are that early, I mean, you still, even if you can see them, you still have to have a response to them, So pretty unfortunate. Now this game's going to be completely different tempo-wise. Tech going for the gate first, and Crossy with an overpull opening. So we're going to see some fighting right off the bat.
Yeah, both players wanted to get aggressive, but Tech smartly keeping his Zealot back. Forge in response too. So this is going to delay his Nexus quite a bit. And this is Sylphid, where there's an open gap on the right side of the gateway. Probe comes in. Oh, okay. Is he gonna? Oh no, he cannot get his Zealot surrounded like that. Oh no.
I mean, if he kills his Zealot for free, that would be massive. He's actually gonna kill his Zealot for free, man. And then Lynx can actually run by in between the gate and the Forge, and suddenly this cannon's gonna get canceled. This is a disaster situation for Tech. Now, he didn't even cancel the cannon. He had like 170 minerals. There's no way he was that low on minerals considering he's only on 1 gate, didn't even put down a Nexus. This is huge for Crossy. I mean, this is almost game over, man. It's so, we saw so many games again, because and if he gets probes on top of that Nyokin, this is truly disastrous. But
yeah, massive damage just being done to Tech. Ling's getting into the base doesn't necessarily kill probes, but forces probes off of the line. And Crossy's not teching really fast either. He took a 3rd base. He's going to have super econ versus a Protoss player that still doesn't have their Nexus up. A probe actually dies there to 1 Ling. So everything's going wrong for Tech this game. So it looks like this is Crossy's game to take almost. I almost don't even know what Tech should do at this point. He still doesn't have 400 minerals for the Nexus, but he is massively behind.
Game's over, man. It's so hard. I mean, the thing is, no game is over really until someone GGs or whatever. But I don't think we can stress enough just how bad this is for Protoss. And we saw a lot of games recently. Again, PvZ I think is the matchup that we've seen the most across the BSL events leading up to BSL 10 through the race wars and the tournaments. PvZ we get to see a lot, and when we were casting a lot of these PvZs, what ended up happening, I think we saw a couple games where Protoss opened gate first into overpool, although that actually might have been a 9 pool, so I'm not too sure, because again, pardon me, Nike, sometimes I just don't pay attention, but when you're forced to get your forge, I mean, if it was a 9 pool, getting your forge is totally fine there, but if it was an overpool, getting forged after gate is a massive disaster. But I think that was actually 9 pool. So but the thing is, nonetheless, Tech actually lost his first cannon, and that set him so far behind, because look, he had to rebuild that cannon fearing that there might be a link speed follow-up. He didn't really get a scout into the Zerg base, so he had no idea what was coming, and basically he didn't even cancel the original cannon, so his Nexus is so delayed. Look, Crossy's already mining out of 3 base, and Tech's Nexus just finished.
Yeah, Crossy is just in a fantastic position. Remember last game, he was down workers the whole time. Now he's up workers, and we haven't even gotten into mid-game. It's 5:30 to already be up workers. He's got his Spire coming in. There's absolutely no tech from Tech right now. He's got his cybernetic spinning, but I don't see a Stargate anywhere. So what could this possibly mean? Is he upgrading range, or is he upgrading weapon? I actually can't see.
It's weapons and range. He's getting range, which makes, that means he's gonna go into that Dragoon build. And again, the thing is with the Dragoon build, it's really weird because I've actually seen pros use this Dragoon build before, or not before, but recently I've seen pros just get Dragoons early on like this. And you don't necessarily have to end the game with them. Again, you're powering into that really big Protoss death ball, and if you don't get punished for going goons that early, usually like it just means that your big push comes out that much faster. In this case though, Crossy's economy is just booming, and he already has a Spire coming. He has that second gas going, fourth hatchery, fifth hatchery at his third, so it looks pretty standard, but he's banking a lot of resources. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple Mutalisks. Yeah, there we go. The Mutalisks just now queued up, so he's gonna go up to 6 Mutalisks.
Yeah, so 6 Muta is going to allow him to one-shot those probes, just keep the pressure onto Tech, and it looks like we may have the Oyaji special with the goons. I see a couple more gateways being put down. The Zealot does come in and see that the Spire is done, and he should have noticed that the eggs took a while to build, so I think he may suspect that Mutas are coming out. There we go. He does instantly put down a couple cannons. So Tech, he's going to have a lot of goons, and they are very powerful, but Ling Muta is a direct counter to, you know, mass goons. So it's going to be really hard for Tech to make this work. Also, Crossy sees it now. When you see double goon, you should know exactly what's coming. And he knows that goons can't attack until critical mass. So I expect to see tons of hatches coming down, just power extremely hard. He's, look at his drone count, still consistently ahead of the probe count. And this is Sylphid, where you can easily shut down mineral lines.
Yeah, and just as you said, Crossy's going for that harassment. And yeah, I mean, the thing is, look, Tech can't attack anymore because Crossy's aware. He already has Mutalisks out, has Link speed from earlier probably. He's already making links, so he's safe against any kind of early Dragoon attack. But the reality is, Tech doesn't have to attack just now. He can just sit back and even add a bunch of gateways and just go into Templar and play like a standard game here. But the thing is, if he goes for that 2-base push, it's going to come so late. I mean, look, Crossy already has 3-base fully saturated. That's 42 workers, probably going to go up to 50 to saturate this 4th base at least. And that economy is absolutely insane. Tech only on 3-gate, only on 40 probes. He's going to keep losing probes to these Mutalisks. That's the problem with going Dragoons. They're not that good at defending against specifically Mutalisk harassment. So, I mean, what does he do here? I really don't know what Tech can do here to come back.
Yeah, it's going to be so hard for Tech. I like the goons, but there has to be some type of follow-up to it. And he's got Templars coming in. He's going into what looks to be 7-gate. I actually wouldn't mind him trying to just kind of camp it out, but Zerg already has 4 bases. They're just going to be exploding. Once they, you know, get that 4th base up and running, they can go straight into Hive if they've evaluated that Protoss is just playing passive. I really don't know what to do as Protoss in this position. He's down 8 workers. He's down 25 supply right now. This is all before Hydras have come out. This isn't mass Hydra Man just yet. So yeah, he's in big time trouble. Sylphid is one of those maps where the 3rd base, sure, it has a gas, but it's a low gas. It also has low minerals. And then the other base right next to you is a mineral only. So there's not going to be a real good mid to mid-ish late game for him if he just decides to camp it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, it's really hard for Protoss. He's just going to have this one push going in. You can see he has double Forge going already and has +1. So realistically, he can still line up a 2-1 attack, which wouldn't be bad with a bunch of Storm. And if Crossy stays on just Lair, there is a chance. But look, Crossy might actually pick off these goons for free.
Yeah, he almost got those goons cornered up against the gateway, but the Templars show themselves, and the Lings and Mutas will back off for now. But overall, Crossy just in a dominant position. The only thing that could make it even more dominant is if we were to check the main and I saw a Hive coming in. He's got 4 macro hatches right there at top left. So it's 8 hatch production for our Zerg player. Once he gets high, I think he even has double evolution chambers. So yeah, no Hive yet for Crossy. That's really the only thing that could make it any stronger for him. He's just got a massive advantage. It's almost strictly, okay, there we go. We do see some Zerg. Well, now Tech is actually getting up a pretty scary army, because that's like 4 Templars, and there's not that many Mutas to come and snipe them. So actually, if he was to go right now and have the best storms of his life, I think he has a chance.
Yeah, he definitely. I mean, there is a chance, right? The thing is, again, it's a layer-based army, so at some point there you get diminishing returns on the supply lead because it's just more hydras to clump up for the storms, right? But I mean, there's a world here where Tech sits back, masses up, and Crossy just makes lurkers and takes the hive and takes a 5th base, and we see the game play out for longer. As I feel like that might actually happen here. Tech is gearing up to take a 3rd base here at this high ground expansion, which of course has diminished resources, so it's not gonna really cover him for the long haul. He's gonna have to look to take the mineral only, as you've said previously, Naokin, to keep going into the late game here. But again, Crossy's not on lair, but he's up 20 supply. So the thing is, Tech really needs the biggest storms ever. Nice snipe there from Crossy. And if he gets another storm, every Templar here counts. And literally Tech has 1 Templar left and is at basically a supply disadvantage. This is going to be huge for Crossy if he doesn't take any storms.
Okay, that's a great storm right there. Supplies are about even, but without any more AoE, Protoss is going to have to turn around. The Zealots just got instantly melted. The storm was really good versus the Mutas and the Hydras. The problem is that there's just only 1 storm. And now Crossy has turned on the switch. He's going to counterattack, push the Protoss all the way back. And there's not even lurkers here. All he needs is pure Hydras. I think he has +1 or +2. That's a whiff of a storm, actually. There's just, now that's a great storm. Blanket Soman, that's another one. But he just needs more support for the Goons. The Goons are doing such a good job, but there's no Zealots.
Yeah, and that was his last storm, Naokin. He doesn't have any more Templar, and honestly, once the Protoss runs out of Templar in these situations, like Crossy even darting forward, killing that Templar, that's kind of like walking to his death there. But once once Protoss loses Storm there and doesn't have any more Storms, this matchup becomes so trivial for Zerg. All they have to do is box A-click, box A-click, box A-click, and see a Protoss. There's nothing you can do against the damage output of these Hydralisks. And again, still no Storm. And Crossy, all he has to do is look at his screen, see if there's those floating guys coming at them. And if there are no floating guys, it doesn't matter what he does. And Tech GG's.
Yeah, so Crossy brings it back. He eliminated the floaty guys before they dropped the thunder on him. But he had a huge advantage in the get-go. If he did not have that huge advantage, I think Tech actually would have been in a good spot. Like his storms were on point at the end. It is just unfortunate, just not enough steam. So Crossy avoids elimination. We are going to be going into our 3rd game. This is going to be deciding who's going to be the person to make it into the decider match to take on Ziki in the to find out who's going to actually make it out.
The last chance match.
Yeah. Yes, last chance match. Our next map should be Eclipse, I think. Yeah,
because it was Optimizer, then Sylphid, and now Eclipse. We're gonna get that screen up for you guys in just a second, but yeah, that was really unfortunate for Tech, man. He was that game was truly unplayable from that position. I mean, really. So much damage from Crossy. I'm assuming that must have been a 9 pool, man, because there's no other way that you get the 6-lings out. Yeah, he had like 6-lings out, then he put down his hatchery. So I'm still trying to debate whether or not Tech should have went for that forge into that cannon, because, you know, most of the time it just sets you so far behind if you don't put that Nexus down. But regardless, he still lost his cannon and still couldn't put down his Nexus. So that was such a bad position for Tech. And I mean, I can't really say he almost made it work. He played it out, and maybe it's hard to say, man. I think Crossy kind of just rolled over him, but he did have some nice storms. He did have some nice fights. It looked like maybe he could make something happen, but the disadvantage was just too big. And going into Eclipse, so actually we're going to go on a map that we haven't seen today. Surprise, surprise, and exciting. It's actually going to be on Polypoid, and this map I have seen only nutty ZVPs on here.
Yeah, Polypoid actually is my favorite ladder map because it's very standard. I don't feel like there's any like gimmicks to it. It's just a straight up macro fest, and Crossy knows how to play the macro, so this should be a really good game. Tech coming in here, we haven't seen any PVZ's on here in a while, so not sure what he wants to opt for, what he's going to open with. The positions on here, I think, make a big difference. Bottom right, very clumped up, so I would expect to see Gateway expand. So let's get into game 3. This decides who's facing Ziki in the deciders match. It is Tech versus Crossy on Polypoid. So in the bottom left, coming off of a strong victory, it is Crossy. And in the top left, kind of had a heartbreaking opener. Let's see if he can recover. In the green, it is Tech. So Polypoid, didn't you tell me you don't like this map? I tune into your stream, I'm pretty sure I hear that you don't like this map.
I like the map. It's just it's hard. It's a hard map to play, man. And I think it's that high ground at your third, just the dynamic of having that big high ground changes so many matchups. In ZVP specifically, obviously, like once you get lurkers, it's such a hard thing to break. And because of that high ground, I think it lends itself to way longer games in all matchups, right? You can play with fewer units because you have that big defensive advantage on most positions. Now, there's some asymmetrical imbalances where sometimes one player's high ground faces the other player's high ground, and that player does not have a high ground to use as much as the other player. So, but yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I do like this map, but sometimes playing Terran on it, playing TVP on it is pretty annoying, and TVT also, because the high ground is just, sometimes it can work for you, sometimes it works against you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you're saying. The high ground is definitely, I agree, an issue for specific matchup. Now I'm thinking back to last game, because Tech was close to maybe not winning, but like maybe stabilizing the game if he could get off some more storms. And I was watching the lurker upgrade timing in particular for Crossy. There were no lurkers throughout the entire game. They just were not made at all. So if he is going to miss his lurker upgrade again and nothing goes wrong for Tech, I think that could be a window of opportunity that Tech could exploit, because Crossy was really lacking, the AoE units himself. So he just had pure Hydra. So look to that to be kind of a turning point potentially if nothing happens in the early stages. Now Tech again, I think is going to take a lot of damage here. Okay, actually those cannons are faster than I thought. I thought the Forge was a little delayed. It's actually not going to take any damage. But again, we get a glimpse at the BSL logos, man. Like, they're pretty sick. I really like them.
Yeah, these maps are pretty slick. It can be, as a player, it can be a bit distracting because you're kind of used to like a specific tile set, right? Like, and because of how, some of these maps look a bit different in game, is all I'm saying. And like the first time you load into them, you're like, oh, what is this? But definitely looking slick. Yeah, it's just awesome to see where BSL is at after 10 seasons, right? Like, just such a sick tournament. And this is just day one, boys. I mean, we've got like a whole marathon ahead of us with even sicker things to come. Now,
that's Crossy, a big pickoff right there, getting the probe.
Yeah, it's pretty huge.
What do you, as a old Zerg player, when you kill a probe this fast, what's going through your mind? Well, we already see a third hatch, so assume you also have a third hatch coming in. Are you thinking like, okay, now's my time to bust? Do I just play it normal? You're just assuming that Protoss is panicking? What's going through your mind here? How can you exploit Protoss not having vision right now?
Right now, I think there's only one exploit that could be possible, and it's literally just rallying Lings and going speed. This is too early to put down the Hydra Den anyway, because, the third hatch is already down, and you want to go up to a certain drone count, as we know, the famous 973. That's really the drone count you want to hit if you want to play like... I mean, the thing is, you could go even faster than that and go 971 or even like super all in. Those are all options for sure. But I think just in general, because this third hatch is coming, you can't really commit to a big all in other than maybe rally Ling speed. But that's how early that probe was killed, right? And, the thing is, as a Zerg player, like, should you really jump on that and completely change your build around it? No, I think you just know that, okay, Protoss is basically going to have to send another probe out. You see, this probe gets absolutely no vision, and now Tech is in a world of hurt. He has no idea what is going on. He had to send another probe, so his economy is like in the dumpster right now. And Crossy is just playing standard behind this, so it's up to Tech to make a hard read here. Am I getting all in, or is Crossy playing standard? He's going Citadel first, then Stargate, so this Stargate is actually more delayed than it should be, and that's even less scouting information. Like the Spire going down approximately the same time. I mean, Crossy is in a really good position again from the opening.
Yeah, that probe going down was actually the worst timing it could have gone down, because it came in, saw the third hatch, and saw no drones mining there. It would be different if he saw a few drones mining there, but because he saw none mining there, he has absolutely no idea what this is. I actually like the Citadel follow first, because if there are going to be Hydra bust, you're going to need to rush out your Temple Archive pretty fast. Stargate coming in, I think the Zealots moving out kind of confirmed that Hydra bust is not coming just yet, so he didn't rush the Temple Archive. I find that a bit shocking, but I think it's mostly because he's gas starved. Oh, maybe he does still think that potentially Hydra's going to come, because third
Hydras
coming up
are usually around 6 minutes is really when it starts hitting with both upgrades. So it's still very possible that Crossy's kind of hiding Hydras out on the map or something. But you know, the longer we get, okay, finally the first Corsair is out around this time is really when Hydras would be hitting. You can see Tech is going for that 6-minute DT. Kind of, this is exactly the build he did on Optimizer. So it was Citadel before Stargate, and that DT is really fast. But the thing is, Crossy has already seen this in game one, so I don't think he's gonna be as caught off guard by it. I think, you know, that was kind of a silly mistake, dying to that DT that just ran into his main. I don't think he's gonna make that same mistake twice. And of course, on this map, as opposed to Optimizer, the 3-base layout is much more compact, so it's easier to just keep your stuff together and not die to this one DT. And is he gonna notice the blur? I highly doubt it. He doesn't know there's a DT out. He's running around the links, doesn't see the Zealots, so he knows Zealots are out on the map, doesn't choose to run by. So yeah, I mean, this DT's coming. I don't think it's gonna do the same damage they did in game one though, Nyokin.
Well, there's nothing to defend, though.
God,
like, you gotta have actual units. So DT's just like, what's up, bro? Let me just walk in here. And he gets into the main, which has no overlord. There's overlords in every base except the main, and he didn't see it. Okay, now he reacts. Two drones go down. Oh, I'm getting flashbacks. How does this Spire survive? Okay, thankfully the overlord's a bit closer this time.
Yeah, the overlord's way closer than last time, at least. I don't think he's gonna get the Spire, so not a total repeat of last game, but you know, Crossy's heart must have sank at that point. Like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening again. DT gets 5 kills though, so that's definitely worth it. Gets full scouting information. Look at the worker count. I mean, Tech is in a fantastic position, and he's still getting some swipes onto these DT, onto drones. 6 kills, 7 kills, 8 kills, 9 kills. What? 1 kills. Crossy didn't even see it. And Tech is just gonna walk right out there. Overlord speed finally finishes, but that's massive damage.
10 probes or 10 drones getting taken out by a DT who should have really only gotten 5. And now look at the drone count. It's 25 to 45. Gateways are already up for Tech. Crossy's gonna do something now. Luckily, there's no storm for Crossy or for Tech just yet, so Crossy actually has a decent shot at busting through. But there's so many Zealots. Remember, he got Citadel pretty quickly. Surprisingly, there's no speed. Okay, now speed kicks in, so he should easily defend this.
Yeah, there's only 3 cannons and no storm though, so I mean, maybe Crossy has a hail. It doesn't look like Crossy's committing to any kind of counterattack though, because you can see his worker count shot back up to 35 after, you know, going down to 20. He made a couple of buildings here, so down to 33, but it doesn't look like Crossy is gonna, you know, commit to sort of a massive all-in counter. And so Tech's not gonna die despite only having 3 cannons and no storms. Finally, he warps in 6 cannons, but honestly, that's not a big deal because he already has the gateways, you know, made, right? Usually making this many cannons is a huge deal when you don't have your infrastructure, you know, when you don't have those gateways. But Tech will have production behind this, so he's gonna have to move out at some point. He's gonna move out again. And the thing is, Crossy has been making only drones. You can see he's being given time to kind of re-drone up. That's the only thing. These Zealots from Tech, they need to be out on the map and playing aggressively, but Tech, I think because he did so much damage, he was actually expecting Crossy to just all in him, and you can see that's why he's playing so defensively. And I think it was part of a mistake from him, because remember, he had a 6-minute DT queue up. His Templar Archives was built so early, and only now did he get Templars and Storm finished, right? He should have had those Templars eons ago.
I think this is still okay from Tech, because even though maybe he gets the Templars a little late, he's still waiting for the goons, because Zealots, Templar are great, but once goons start coming in, like, they just start getting pot shots off. They start dealing so much damage. So I'm okay with the Templars being delayed a little bit. The Zealot move out is going to force even more units from Crossy. In theory, you would think, well, okay, I'm punishing the Zerg because it can't drone up behind us. But Crossy did a good job to re-drone up very quickly. 43 to 45 workers now. And this is Polypoid, where it is somewhat hard to get a third base. You don't really want to take that mineral only simply because it's like right there. Zerg can instantly counterattack. Now, the speed on the Overlords, I actually thought we may end up seeing a drop like we saw him pull out on Optimizer, but we haven't seen that just yet. But that is a lot of goons now. Now, remember, I was talking about the Lurker upgrade. I still haven't seen a single Lurker for Crossy right now. He really needs to have some type of AoE if he wants to engage this army.
Yeah, it looks like he's morphing in 4 Lurkers, though, on the production tab. And the thing is, here's where Polypoid is going to play out, because, you know, on most maps, you see this and you're like, wow, Protoss is going to have a huge timing attack here. But on this map, where do you attack? Do you attack the... it's really hard to attack on this map. He can go for the mineral only, but then he's fighting up, up high ground against Lurkers. He can go to 6 o'clock, but 6 o'clock is such a compact, small base that you can hold with just a couple of Lurkers. And this... So contrasting this game with Ziky's game against Dewalt in the use of Lurkers, on a map like Reap the Storm, it's not really clear what defensive positions there are for Lurkers. But on a map like Polypoid, it's so obvious, dude. See high ground? Put Lurkers on high ground. And look, Crossy lining up those Lurkers, gonna have that high ground, protection. Tech, though, he has a really good opportunity here before the Lurkers get reinforced, and I actually think Tech is going to break through this and kill the mineral only.
Yeah, there's so many Hydras on the low ground that Crossy doesn't realize, but now all that's left are goons, and they'll be fighting uphill. They've got to get onto the high ground. Looks like they are going to make it, but no more storms available, and Tech isn't reinforcing, so I actually think Crossy's going to hold this off, and this could be a big blunder from Tech. Goons are very expensive.
Dude, this is Polypoid in a nutshell. This high ground is insane. In no world should Zerg have ever held that after donating those Lurkers for free, letting Protoss get the dream engagement. But you can see just how absolutely insane this high ground is. Not only the high ground, but there were some buildings there kind of messing up the Dragoon AI, but the Dragoon AIs, like the Dragoons that were actually fighting the Hydralisks, half of them were missing half the time. And in a fight where Zerg had no business winning in any world whatsoever, he completely crushes it. And now Zerg is ahead on supply. Now Tech doing some nice guerrilla tactics, sending some Zealots, sneaking those Zealots into the main base of Crossy, so he's going to be able to kill some more drones. Taking his own third base behind this, though, honestly, he would rather be taking 12 o'clock where that third gas is, but this third base is so late. Tech is about to mine out in his main, at least, and he's going to go back to 2 base, whereas Zerg is functionally going to be on 4 base for a while, and it's just such a bad position. It's so unfortunate because Tech should... I mean, the thing is, it is Polypoid. He should know better, but on any other map, in any other kind of battlefield, Protoss just rolls that Zerg army handedly.
Yeah, a bit unlucky there for Tech, and now supply lead, or almost supply lead for Crossy, never where you want to be as a Protoss player. Pro desperately needs to get up top middle. As Protoss, you cannot just survive on taking this one mineral only base. You really, oh well, he's gonna catch a few Hydras here, but he desperately needs to get up that third gas. Something I was watching in Tech's main is it didn't look like the Forge is spinning, and I'm not too sure if he has double Forge, but he definitely needs to get those upgrades going, because I saw that Crossy already has +1, should be at +2 pretty soon. But I also noticed that the evolution chamber, I think, went down at the third base for Crossy, so maybe +2 has been delayed. but still Tech is in an okay position. But with the Queen's Nest up, with Hive coming in pretty soon, if he's not able to bust a Zerg that's just on lair tech, it's going to be even harder to bust now that they're going to have Dark Swarm and Cracklings coming in pretty soon.
Yeah, Dark Swarm's basically like a timer for the Protoss, because once Defilers hit the game, you know, Protoss needs to have a strong economy and has to be kind of transitioning into an anti-Dark Swarm army composition, whether it's Mass Zealot Archon, whether it's adding more Reavers, whether it's getting that third gas, fourth gas up to just spam Templars and storm, you know, spam Storm under Dark Swarm. But like staying on this Goon Templar mid-game army, look how many goons he has. That has an expiration date, and the expiration date is the Caterpillar Man eating up the dogs and you know, throwing the orange cloud on you, and after that, even the red whatever that is, the red boogers on you. But
the ketchup, man.
The ketchup, I guess the ketchup and the mustard almost. But honestly, it's gonna be hard for Tech to do anything because he lost complete tempo on the game after that push. You can see all his you know, all his attention, all his army movements right now are aimed at defending his 12 o'clock, aimed at defending his main base, and now he's moving his army kind of to the left side, to the 9 o'clock base, maybe checking for a base there, not really accomplishing much. And this is the time, kind of like in TVZ, right before Defilers, Protoss needs to get out on the map and pressure, needs to do something with this really strong composition. But you know, in that first fight, also what went really wrong for Tech is that he lost all those Templar before he got the Cassini Storm, so he needs to be way more careful. Crossy getting a cheeky base at the right side of the map, though. I really like this, especially with Hive coming in. He's going to be able to get a Nidus down and get that base for free.
Yeah, well, this is always the awkward part in the game where I see Protoss just bounce around with not really any opportunity to attack, and it kind of just feels like they just let Zerg get into Hive tech, and then it starts getting really crazy, and we can see another huge swell of blue units just flood onto that third base. I don't think this was... Yeah, okay, he's going to back off for now. But you can see that Crossy's just starting to be everywhere. There's another swell of units on the right side of the map. There's more on the left side. He's just everywhere. I saw that he was upgrading Lings, so they're going to be hitting like trucks pretty soon. And because he's already gotten speed on his Overlords, should be getting drops pretty soon. And we know how fast Ling drops just obliterate, you know, buildings that Protoss players have. So if he can get a drop into the main, I think that could be lights out for Tech. Tech needs to get a fifth base. Okay, there he is. Mineral only fifth base. But here he comes. Can he bust through? It is before the Caterpillar Man. And the Floaty Man is pretty strong himself. So maybe he can actually bust through this blue Hydra Ling army comp.
Yeah, maybe. The Storms are on point here, but Tech doesn't really have a clear attack path. Look, he doesn't want to funnel into those lurkers. And it takes so long to just kind of set up your army just right. Because, you know, you have to have the goons out in front, the zealots in the back, not leaking any zealots into the lurkers to not bleed them for free. And by the time you get that set up, you don't know if the Zerg is counterattacking your 12 o'clock or counterattacking this mineral only. So Tech, he's going to be forced into playing a really long game against Crossy here. And I mean, the thing is, PvZ late game is so hard. I mean, it's just so oppressive to play against Defilers. And look, the thing is, Tech doesn't even have the proper worker saturation, still only on 47 probes for functionally 4 bases. He mined out his main, but this new mineral only is going to put him back to 4 bases. He really needs to go up to even 60 probes, I would say, to actually start pumping out of gateways and keep up with the Zerg late game. Now he's going to manage to push up into this base, which would be huge. He really, if he kills this base, he's going to be in a pretty decent spot, but the Nidus is already there. I don't know, man. The Caterpillar Man's right there.
Yeah, but he's got to send some units. There we go. They just barely pop out of the Nidus in time. And Tech is actually not going to be able to bust through. I actually love this base from Crossy because what it does is it draws the entirety of the Protoss army out of position. We saw that Crossy instantly went for a counterattack, but the reinforcing zealots actually held them off. But the idea to pull Protoss across the map, I love it. And now Tech is on a clock because Mid-right is a base that you want to contest as Protoss. You do not want to let Zerg get that base. So if that gets mined out, he's in big time trouble. There's the orange cloud, and that's gonna allow these Hydras to just bust down these cannons. But Templars come in, Storms are blanketing them. So for now, Tech is gonna hold on, but he desperately needs to get up top right and try and get a 4th and 5th gas. Right now, he only has 3 gas, and the main and Nat are already mined out.
Yeah, and the late game is starting to tax Tech. You can see he's getting into this really difficult position to pilot. His minerals are skyrocketing, even though he's not maxed. He's not taking bases top right. He needs to be doing all of this at once. Meanwhile, Crossy has no problem getting bottom right. Rebuilding this Nidus. Crossy's navigating this much better than Tech is, and Tech is being put, he's being like his mechanics are being taxed now, and this is really purely mechanical based PvZ into the late game like this. You have to keep making Zealots, you have to keep making Templar, you have to keep making Archons, cannons everywhere. Like, it really is a very high, as opposed to almost every other situation Protoss has to play in the game, this is the real taxing one in terms of your mechanics. It's almost very similar to playing SK Terran and TVZ late game, where you have to just constantly be churning out units out of your bases and expand and like constantly putting pressure. You can't really, if you're not putting pressure, that gives Zerg time to set up drops, that gives Zerg time to set up random defiler attacks with lings and stuff. So Tech doing a good job here out on the map. Look, he's expanding top right, and he's still macroing, got his minerals down, moving his army around, trying to find some place of attack. But the thing is, once Zerg gets Nidus, I mean, they can be absolutely everywhere at once, and it's gonna be so hard. I'm waiting to see Tech switch into Reavers or something, more shuttle play. He needs to incorporate more shuttles to start harassing the Zerg economy, maybe even go into Corsair. It's some crazy thing to offset Crossy, because all Crossy has to do is ferry units across the map through Nidus and fight the Protoss army at his bases.
Well, we see the first Reaver come out at that mineral only. Tech's starting to get top right, and Protoss has one of the strongest late game comps once you start adding in all those AoE units like the Reaver, the Floaty Man, the Arbiter, Dark Archon with Maelstrom. They've got really a ton of AoE. So if Tech decides to start going into split map, I think he's got a good shot. But the fact that Crossy already secured mid right, that's one base that's never going to be denied from Tech. So he needs to get up top right, needs to get his gas going. Look at how low he is on the gas, consistently around 100, 150 gas. There's almost no real Tech units other than those 5-6 Templars that we already see sitting out there. And he just doesn't have a standing army now. Well, okay, actually that's a decent army. He needs to start morphing in some Archons. Archons are super strong, but I did notice that he is lacking on the Plasma Shield upgrades. So Archons are still taking a lot of damage from these Lings and Hydras. Look at those upgrades. +3 on the Lings, +2 on the Hydras. No shields right now. So Archons are super weak. And here comes the catch-up that I think we just missed.
Yeah, there's a catch-up, dude. Prepping, seasoning those Zealots up for the Lings to just eat them up afterwards. But, this is the hard part for Tech. Like, where does he go with his army? Because if he moves to the right side, suddenly his mineral only at the top left becomes vulnerable. But if he defends the top left mineral only, then his right side expansions become vulnerable. And finally we get into that phase of the game. We can see the Zerg flood. Finally, Crossy, content with where his economy is at, he's just going to start box sending units all over the map. It doesn't really matter what he does. He can box, make Lings, box, a move, box, I don't know, just box anything, box it around. And that's really all the Zerg needs to think about here, is boxing stuff. And, Tech's going to have such a hard time because he's running out of minerals in his main. His main is mined out, his natural's mined out. He's on 3 base. I don't think he managed to actually saturate his base. Yeah, the natural at top right isn't even saturated. It's really hard to get probes across the map, obviously, from top left to top right. So Tech, economically in a terrible position. He's not even maxed. He has no bank. And Crossy's maxed with a bank with way more bases. I mean, what does Tech do here?
Crossy needs to just attack the main of Tech, because he just isolated the entirety of the army on the right side, and they would have to come through a lurker field. So just an all-out, I want to see non-stop blue lines to top left would easily bust through, and then Tech would have to rebuild all of his buildings. Instead, it looks like Tech or Crossy wants to attack the most defended area of the map. There's Reavers here, there's Mass Storm, there's Cannons, there's Zealots. I think this is a big mistake. There's a catch-up, but it doesn't hit very much. So I think this is a bit of a blunder here, but meanwhile, Crossy did take mid left, but Zealot counterattack is going to easily take down this hatchery.
Yeah, it's interesting what you pointed out there, Nike, and I think psychologically it's hard to make those decisions because, look, here's what Crossy's thinking about. Why would I attack top left when it's mined out, right? Like, at top right is where all the resources that are at for the Protoss player, so he's focusing all his attention on the resources because you kind of just assume maybe Protoss is just going to have all his, you know, just rebuild his base in top right, and I understand that, but the reality is, you know, Tech is thinking the same thing. This is where all my resources are at. This is where the Zerg's going to attack me. If you just go and attack his main, or attack even this mineral only that's been mining for free at Tech's high ground, that's the freest base to attack, the mineral only, and it's still been mining this whole time. So Crossy, I think maybe tunnel visioning a bit, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter. I mean, he's in such a dominating position. The thing is, at some point, he's going to have to try and close the game out. Of course, Tech, if you let Protoss kind of war of attrition you, it's not good, right? Like, Protoss eventually, if he splits the map, but the reality is, even in the split map situation, like you mentioned, Crossy already has mid-right mining from a long time, and now he's going to secure mid-left. So he's going to have two bases extra full resources to work to basically win the game, which is more than enough, I think, in this matchup.
Well, we got a Templar drop on the right side, going to eliminate a lot of the drones, but Tech getting top right is a big deal. Main, Nat, third base guys should have all been mined out. So for him to get, lurker drop, unfortunately, this is not that Bonneth game that we saw a few weeks ago in the Foreign All-Stars where 2 lurkers got like 30 kills. That's a great catch up on to all those Templars, but 5 gas Protoss is super deadly if they can just consistently pump out those high-tech units. And now that he's building up a decent count of Reavers, there is a real chance that we may just be in store for like an hour-long camp fest.
Yeah, maybe we should shift gears and start talking about other things, because it's hard to say really here what's happening. The thing is, honestly, Zerg should be able to close this game out. He just needs to coordinate like a decisive attack. But Crossy's struggling, and I understand. You have to remember, guys, this is a tournament game. They're both fighting for, this is their tournament lives. Literally, whoever loses this is out of the tournament. So I can understand that both are playing really slow. I mean, Tech, for example, he's playing this game out despite being in a really, really rough position. And Crossy, instead of kind of committing to ending the game, he's also taking his time, probably afraid of throwing the game, but he has such a massive lead. Look, he's still ahead in supply, and when you're ahead in supply, and when Protoss isn't maxed in this matchup, you should be able to just A-move him. And I think Crossy finally finding the weak spot, this mineral only third that I spoke about earlier, that should really just have been killed, but it's basically mined out at this point.
Yeah, Crossy finally realizes that all of the defense is on the right side, so he's starting to attack the left side. But as I say that, now a Reaver pops out, so that should actually fend off a lot of the Zerg incoming army. Lurker trying to be annoying at top right, looks like it's gotten 2 kills so far, but Crossy, he's still in a fine position. He's still got, what, 7 bases, including mid-right? But the fact that Protoss was able to get up to 6 base, get out so many Reavers, I don't think Tech is out of it yet. I like how he's not spending a ton of minerals on units like the Zealot that are just going to kind of get plagued like we see there. He is kind of, waiting to build Templar. He's not just instantly going to 200. There's the drop that I was waiting for. Templars, I don't think, should have Storm. Zealots are out of position, so that's going to be a lot of gateways just instantly dying.
Yeah, I think Crossy finally... Well, the thing is, even if he kills this main, I think Tech at this point is going to be accepting the fact that he's going to lose this main, and he's just going to start rebuilding his units, or his buildings top right. Now, so many Hydras here, they're going to be able... Dude, that Lurker Leg is just blocking the entirety of the Protoss army from coming back into the main. Meanwhile, Tech trying to find some counter harassment with this shuttle. drops down to 2 Reavers, is going to be able to clean up this these 4 Hydralisks, and they're probably going to be able to stop mining at bottom right. So Tech suddenly, like, he's fighting back for sure. And Crossy, you can see he depleted his basically his bank. So I mean, there is a world where maybe Protoss kind of grinds a win out from here, but it's gonna be so hard with mid left and mid right still owned by Zerg bases.
These lurkers are hilarious because the Reaver is either bugging out and not firing, or it doesn't have any scarabs. It looks like it just wasn't firing because now it finally fires. And all these gates die. And now where's the production for Tech? On the right side, on the mini, oh, he just taps out, GG. So Crossy is going to be the one to move on, and he's going to be rewarded again with playing Ziki this time, and it's going to be a best of 3 again. And now we may actually get to see the matchup that I wanted, which is Optimizer. But regardless, Tech played very well today, almost killing Dewalt. Who did he play after that? Was it Ziki?
No, it was just Crossy. He lost.
Oh, it's just Crossy. What am I thinking? I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm just
I mean, that game was so long.
But
that must have been that was as long as an entire series. So
yeah. Also, your Caterpillar man kind of blew up my brain, so I'm just out of it.
Yeah,
right
sorry,
now.
man. It just happens.
But we're gonna go into a best of 3 now, or we're gonna first take a quick break, but then we're gonna come back with the best of 3 between Ziki and Crossy. Who's gonna make it out as the second place finisher in Group B? Welcome back to BSL. We are into the final game of Group B. It is going to be Crossy versus Ziki. It's going to be a rematch of what we saw earlier, where Crossy not able to make it happen. Ziki ended up taking him out. But very good games, and we'll actually see if Ziki can continue his reign of domination, dominating in the race wars, now barely falling to Dewalt, and now almost or already took out Crossy. So it looks like he is on track to do so.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be feeling pretty good going into this because he won last game versus Crossy. But at the same time, Crossy just played like a bunch of StarCraft. And I'm assuming, you know, in the meantime, Ziki probably was waiting for Crossy. So I'm thinking Crossy's probably, you know, more kind of on it than Ziki. Who knows how they play this game? I'm just talking from experience, right? But like, you know, they might have taken a break. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know. Like the thing is, Ziki won last game pretty convincingly against them, between the two of them. So I think that's gonna play a factor going into this. But at the same time, like Crossy's still strong. He can definitely, you know, bring it back. I do think over the past couple times we've seen Crossy play, I think a ZVZ has really been his weakness, like for sure.
Well, ZVZ is unlike any other matchup. You know, when I off race Zerg and I get ZVZ, I'm not happy. I just ling all in because it's just so completely different than everything else. It's all about decision making, backstab, stuff like that, where like being in position, out of position, all that stuff. So we'll see if Crossy can turn it around. Crossy's definitely very good, but Ziki just seems so solid. I loved how he constantly sent in one ling to check what Crossy was doing.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very tough for Crossy. Let's see what our next map is going to be. It is going to be Optimizer. So we're going to get what I wanted, which is I want to see like 3 hatches in our main, double gas, just complete craziness. And we may actually get to see that. So let's get into game 1. It is going to be Crossy versus Ziki. Winner moves on. Loser is eliminated from BSL 10. So let's get into it. So in the bottom left, in the orange, we have the Hungarian Zerg. It is Ziki. And in the bottom right, in the blue, we have Mr. Cross. So do you think we're going to see anything crazy, or is this just going to be standard ZVZ? Remember, we saw, I think, 9 pool from Crossy, whereas we saw, what, overpool hatch from Ziki?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think this map isn't that crazy for ZVZ. I think the only times, I mean, it's interesting that you suggest maybe having 3 hatches in your main, and going double gas, but even so, like it's only 1,000 gas from the 1 gas. I really don't think. I think this map, if the only time it actually might play into this matchup is if we get into more of a later stage mid game. Where, you know, they're both on heavy Mulus production, and finally they take their third base or their third hat or whatever, their third gas, and mine the minerals, the extra minerals at their natural. But like outside of that, I can't see the extra resources really be that big of a deal. It looks like Ziki is actually going for an overpool, or it looks like a 10. I think that's 11-10, and then Crossy's actually going for hatch first, and I think it's gonna be hard to say. I mean, this is the pool isn't. It's not like a 9 pool, so I don't think this is an outright win here for Sziky. I think the lings actually come too slow to punish the 12 hatch.
Well, this is going to be 11 hatch and then actually an 11 pool follow-up, and Optimizer does look like a pretty big map, so I don't think the lings are actually going to get there in time to deal a lot of damage. This seems like quite a bit of gas for Ziki before the pool finished. So was this actually gas before pool? Because it feels like it was. So speed, I think, is what was the upgrade coming in for Ziki, but I could be wrong. It could be fast lair. Oh, actually it is fast lair. So he has no intention of actually killing the hatch. He just wants to go straight up into Spire. Now we already saw Ziki react to Fast Fire from Crossing. He ended up just going for Evolution Chamber. But I think it's going to be hard to make that type of style work because look how open that Nat entrance is. If you can get Mutas over the ledge and a decent amount of links, they can easily sneak by.
Wow, and Crossy actually goes for the lair himself. So the thing is, yeah, it's hard to say. This lair from Ziki is so fast that I think Crossy is going to have to get Spire or whatever spores no matter what happens here. Now it is nice. The thing I don't, these are such weird variations. The build Ziki is going is straight up like a Mutalisk build. You go this to, usually you see it on maps that have ramps though, not rampless maps, because you have fewer links to defend and you don't have speed. So you usually rely on a ramp to, like, you know, defend your choke. Now obviously this choke is really good to defend also, but the ramp is just that much more defendable than just a flat choke. So interesting build order choice by Ziki, kind of more unconventional. I do like it though. It is overall a really solid build. You can see he's already stockpiling a bunch of gas, so he's gonna have so many Mutalisks, and usually, as you see, also Ziki's getting another hatchery in his main, and the reason he can do this, so look, actually, Dan, this is exactly what you're, well, I mean, he's using the map, because you can see he's gonna get that early stockpile from getting basically the gas before the pool and no speed, and then once he runs out of that stockpile, he's gonna inject himself even more gas. So I really like this from Ziki, and this is classic Ziki, man. This is why this guy is nuts. He has a brain, dude. He is such a smart player.
Yeah, well, here comes Cross. He's going to try and bust through. The arc is fantastic for Ziki. He's going to get his Sunken up in time. Now he's got to back off. Sunken's.
Oh, my.
Oh, well, that's an exposed fire, though. And he's got to be very careful that that does not get picked off, because that's what he's building up to. Looks like there is, luckily, enough links to push it back. So Ziki does manage to survive for now, and he is going to go for that in-base hatch. He is going to get up his second gas to match Crossy's. But as you were saying earlier, over time, Crossy's second extractor will be more impactful. But for now, Ziki, I think he's in a pretty good spot right now. I didn't think he lost really much to that attack. So he's going to try and put on some more pressure. But look at the drone count. There's a considerable amount more for Crossy. But he doesn't have any more lings. That's it. There's only 4 versus like 8.
Yeah, but these aren't speed upgraded for Ziki, so he's going to get a really good trade here, but only 3 lings left over. And if he gets a spore here, that would be massive. He's going to get a couple drones, so this is definitely really good for Ziki, right before the Mutalisk even popped. But Crossy's Spire is actually fast himself. He's already making Mutalisks, and the thing is, Ziki didn't really do much with the earlier timing he had on his Spire, and I don't think he'll be able to end the game, obviously, at this point. So Ziki, I'll have to see here if he recognizes that he has to expand. I think when we've seen Crossy in this position where Ziki is, with kind of that tech advantage, but not the economic advantage, he was very overly aggressive. Oh, he's actually just going for the spore and chasing out the Mutalisk with the Scourge. So very decisive play, but look how much damage that spore colony is doing. And you saw actually Crossy almost target fire that Mutalisk back, so that was pretty sick. But Ziki doesn't lose any Mutalisks, but he's forced back because more spores are on the way. And at this point, you got to recognize, okay, I'm not going to end this game. I do have way more Mutalisks. It's going to be interesting because still, look, the drone count is pretty even. And Ziki has 2 hatcheries going, and he has access to the second gas. So he doesn't have to expand just yet. He can play aggressively. This map really kind of... You know, I said we're not going to see much from this map. Sick micro, by the way, from Ziki, but Ziki really playing to this map.
Yeah, and the Lings getting those 2 to 3 drone kills made the drone count so much closer, and the Muta control is absurd. This is just patented Ziki. Like I said earlier, only Eon, Zerg, and True Touch have matching control to this guy. It's absolutely incredible. He can macro like a god. He can micro like a god. And this is why I don't like spores that much, because spores are great, but they can't move anywhere. So there's actually an exposed mineral line at the bottom. If the Mutalisk were just to hang out there, he's going to pick off the Evolution Chamber. I actually thought earlier that the Evolution Chamber might be able to bounce into the spore. That ended up not happening. But still, Crossy's in trouble. Now, I do look at the mini-map, and there's no second gas for Ziki just yet. So over time, Crossy's going to have more and more gas, but he needs to build up that Muta count. Right now, he has like none.
Yeah, the longer Crossy mines from this natural gas, the worse it is for Ziki, because, you know, Ziki's going to mine out his second gas at his main, like the 1000 gas, way faster than Crossy, and then when Crossy needs that extra gas, he doesn't even get it for free. So it's going to be really interesting. Now, Ziki with some sick micro doesn't actually lose any Mutalisks, kills all the Scourge, dude. That was so impressive. So he's really putting on the pressure, but he's not killing any drones. He's not going to end this game. Crossy can just stay behind this support colony. I mean, yeah, it's annoying losing your evolution chamber, but honestly, who cares? And Crossy is actually going for the +1 Carapace. Meanwhile, Ziki's going for the +1 attack. Now, the Carapace actually scales better than the attack upgrade, but it's more expensive. Ziki finding the perfect angle here. The thing is, he's totally boxed in. Those Scourge coming in, connecting just right, but just not enough Mutalisks from Crossy to chase those down. So Ziki kind of with a pretty aggressive maneuver there, but kills the drones that he needed to. And look, he's mining gas now, but that's only 1000 gas. It's gonna mine out pretty fast, but he did so much damage there.
Yeah, it's fine that it's 1000 gas. He's just hanging around this mineral line. He's now nullified the drone advantage. He's up 17 to 11, but did he overstep? Muta versus Muta with Scourge trailing behind it. It is only 4 left for Ziki versus looks like maybe like 4 or 5 for Crossy. He ends up accepting defeat there. He's going to split off one Mutalist, save the other. So now Crossy's in the driver's seat. And remember, there's no spore colonies for Ziki, so a counterattack should be able to deal a decent amount of damage. But as I say that, reinforcing Mutas coming in. This is such a wild map for ZVZ, having way more Mutas than you actually expect. But I think the biggest issue now is the drone count, 17 to 11. Ziki can start taking his natural.
Yeah, I mean, the drone count is massive here for Ziki, and he's just going to pull ahead. I mean, look at the supply. Still kind of even. I mean, it's still pretty even. And again, you have to factor in the fact that Crossy's been mining from just his natural gas. So soon, Ziki will only be on 2 gas, whereas Crossy will have a time where he's on 3 gas, and he'll be able to kind of come back in that Mutalist count. So, I mean, it's definitely, it's hard to say who's ahead at this point. I mean, obviously Ziki's ahead, but I don't think the game's far from over, right? Yeah, I mean, they're both still massing Mutalisks. Now, Crossy's going to have to find a time to basically drone up a bit more, because the big thing is Ziki's getting that 3rd hatch, and with that extra production coming through, it's gonna, you know, it's just gonna keep building on itself. He's gonna be able to take that 4th base faster. He's gonna be able to make drones and lings and Mutalisks. He's gonna be able to afford everything he wants. Meanwhile, if Crossy funnels all his resources into Muta Scourge here and nothing happens, he's gonna fall behind economically.
Well, here comes Ziki. He did just get +1 weapon, but Crossy's about to get +1 armor, and that's a huge upgrade for the Mutas. It's way better than +1 weapon. So let's see if this was a mistake to move in this deep. There's a spore. Oh my, that's so many Scourge, but unfortunately, none of the Scourge really connected. They just connected on other Scourge. So Ziki manages to get in, deal a little damage, and escape, but still, he has a slight Muta advantage. It's 10 to 8. I think that if Crossy counterattacks, this is a mistake. He does have +1 armor. You're always feeling super strong with +1 armor, but he just doesn't have the Muta count.
Yeah, I'm surprised Crossy's playing so aggressively. I don't know why he thinks he has such a commanding advantage that he can just go and attack. He has to remember that the longer the game goes, the better it is for him, because he was mining his natural gas way earlier, but he's just going to take this poor fight here. More Scourge reinforcing, and you can see both players so good at ZVZ. This is what high-level ZVZ is about. You can see, like, there's always Scourge reinforcing and coming from different angles and joining the fight, and it's so crazy, but Ziki's micro is just next level, dude. This guy has sick Mutal micro. Now, Crossy misrallying a couple drones. Look, his main is barely mining anything. Crossy did not drone up, and this is a constant theme of his ZVZ, just kind of always committing so hard to making units non-stop. He's playing so aggressively when there's no way for him to catch up in the Mutalist count. Look, I mean, Ziki's been ahead economically this whole game, and Crossy, instead of just accepting that he won't have tempo on the map, he won't have you know, the resources to fight this, and kind of droning up, he's playing overly aggressive. And I mean, he has the +1 Carapace. Again, it scales better than the +1 attack, and also he's had the gas at the natural for longer, so I don't get why he doesn't just play a slower game.
well. An Overlord goes down. I think this might just be the game-ending move because there's just so many mutas, and the muta control is just absolutely crazy. He's down to 2 mutalists left. That leaves the main wide open. Drones going down left and right. I don't think a single Scourge has connected this entire game. Even when he's boxed in like this, they don't connect. It's just crazy, man. This guy's micro is absolute insanity, and Crossy just types out. So, you know, originally I thought, okay, Crossy's got a good chance, but like, look at it, man. Like ZVZ is completely different than every other matchup, and Ziggy's just so good at all aspects of the game. Macro, micro, decision-making, it doesn't matter. Like, this guy's amazing.
Yeah, he's nuts. That micro is nuts. The build order choice is so smart on that map. I like, obviously I haven't played ZVZ in a long time, but the fact that he came up with that, like, it makes so much sense. Just going for the gas early and going into that mutalistic build. That's how that build works usually. You bank up that gas with that early gas before pool, and you get to put, because you bank up so much gas, it doesn't matter that the other player takes their natural. You're actually going to be ahead in gas for a long time, so you can actually afford to put your second hatchery in your base. But on that map, you also have access to that second gas, so you don't have to expand as fast as usually when you do that build. Your third hatchery is going to be at your natural, but he doesn't need to rush that third hatchery because he has access to that second gas. So it makes so much sense with the build that he chose on that map, and that's really the first time that I've seen this whole tournament, and even in the race wars and in the tournament, someone actually played to the map correctly, and it was just incredible to watch.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to see this map in particular and this particular matchup, because I knew ZVZ had to be the one matchup where that gas had to come into play, and Ziki played it perfect. The Muta micro, just ridiculous, man. Like, I don't think I've ever seen better Muta micro than that, especially when you're in a corner. How do none of the Scourge connect? Can somebody tell me how do none of them connect? So our next map is going to be Sylphid, Ziki versus Crossy. Crossy needs to pull something out of the hat because Ziki is clearly next level. So Crossy 1 game away from being eliminated. Ziki, he's going to get out in second place if he wins this game. Sylphid's coming up. Let's get into it. So in the top middle, in the blue, we have our European Zerg 1 game away from making it out of Group B. It is Ziki. And in the bottom right, he needs something, but it's going to be so hard for him going up against the monster and Ziki. It is Crossy. So honestly, I don't know what you do versus this, because it just feels like at all stages of the game, Ziki's outplaying him. I liked the mind game on the Eclipse game that we saw in the initial opening match where he hid the 6 lings, but other than that, it's just been all Ziki throughout these couple games that we've seen.
Yeah, man, these have been really decisive games by Ziki. And again, like, as opposed to, you know, the thing is, these are tournament games and it's really hard on all players, but as opposed to Crossy, I think Crossy's just, he's such an aggro player and mindset, just does not want to chill out and play a longer game. And Ziki is just, he's okay with it. So I feel like Ziki in general, as we see mirror builds from both players, looks like 9 full speed from both players. So this is really going to be kind of a fundamental test here. But as I was saying, Ziki, he's just so calm and calculated, and that's really like the hallmark of a great StarCraft player. Like, when they can get into those into any situation and play it with a long term in mind, not just I want to hit this time, I want to end it now, I want to get out of this game. And Ziki time and time again has proven that he can just play the slow games, and that's what's putting him up above the rest. I feel like a cut above the rest is just the fact that, you know, he's okay with that. He's okay with playing long games. And I think Crossy, many times in his EVZs, he's in really good situations, but he just doesn't know when to take the you know, his foot off the gas pedal. He's just always go. I think if he just chills for a second, I mean, I don't think Ziki's significantly stronger mechanically, or maybe even in his understanding of the game than Crossy. Like in-game decision is really what has separated the two. But I think if Crossy just chills out, he definitely has a really good shot here.
Crossy for sure is a good player. And again, we do see some lings being hidden out on the side of the map, but knowing Ziki, there's no way that this is really going to deal that much damage, but potentially it could catch him off guard. He does have 6 lings going across the map, and if these 2 intercept like they are, this may be Crossy's time to move those lings. I'm watching very intently on the minimap, but no movement just yet. Looked like actually one of the lings ended up going down for Ziki, so it is 5 versus 6 right now. We'll see if Crossy wants to turn on the gas, as you were saying. Speed's about halfway done for Crossy. No speed for Ziki yet. Lair is already done for him though, so he's going to be getting up a fast fire. Oh, and Lair's also done for Crossy, so matching spire times.
Yeah, and again, kind of speaking to both players' styles, Ziki is okay with just skipping the speed and playing a more defensive game. Look, he ran around, he saw those identical builds because of, you know, the ling count and the timing and everything. It's very, you know, when you're in game, you can kind of tell these things. And he's like, okay, I'm just gonna pull back when speed's about to finish. And now he's not gonna get punished for not having speed, and he's okay with going into a longer game. Crossy, meanwhile, he's just quit. You know, again, Crossy style, just aggro. But this is a perfect position for Ziki to hold. I mean, the thing is, Crossy does have speed advantage, so if he can somehow break through this, it's gonna. I mean, it would be really good for him. But he's taking such poor trades at this choke.
Yeah, the trade's not the greatest, but the sunken placement is not the greatest either. And that might actually come back to haunt Ziki, because that walled off the mineral line right there. I do not think a drone can get to that backline mineral. Now, it is ZVZ, so they don't build a lot of drones in general, but that could be a big mistake. 10 drones to 10 drones. Looks like Crossy, well, I thought he was feeling confident to put down a hatchery, but instead he does back off. Both players are just going to build up 3 Mutalisks. And it looks like we're going to have another micro battle coming in pretty soon.
Yeah, it's crazy after all that variation that they kind of both come out on top with 10 drones apiece. Crossy made a couple more lings, but Ziki, of course, had to invest into that sunken colony. Now, the big thing is Ziki's going to have 100 gas more to work with than Crossy, because he didn't go for ling speed. And here, if he gets a drone, it's going to be massive. If he gets 2 drones, it's going to be even better. But nice micro there from Crossy. Almost, you know, crisis averted, because if you lose 2 drones there, that's huge. And you can see Ziki putting that extra gas to work, getting the +1 attack on Mutalisk. So, you know, again, Ziki slightly getting ahead here. Look at how disciplined this guy is, man. He could have easily killed that Overlord, and he's like, nope, this is as much damage. Okay, finally, look, he waits for the 4 Mutalisks. He knows he has a Mutalisk advantage, and now he tries to kill the Overlord. Still being so calculated, so dude, how many players in that position just commit to that and kill the Overlord, and then lose Mutalisks because the other player engages?
Yeah, the decision making is top notch for Ziki. Moving back, not overextending. That's one of the main issues that I see from lower level players. Now, the Scourge, of course they connect for Ziki, but don't connect for Crossy. So now it's 5 mutas versus 4. 1 is heavily damaged, so maybe 1 Scourge connected, but he's gonna back off for now. I am a bit surprised at the weapon upgrade. It's been so long since I've done ZVZ that I'm a bit curious why he has consistently gone for weapon as opposed to armor, because armor is considerably better than weapon. Of course, it is more expensive, but when you got Muta micro like what he has, like, you don't even need Scourge, you just only need Mutas. So I'll have to think about that more, but for now, both players pretty much similar unit count. 1 more Muta for Ziki right now. It looks like there's going to be 2 Scourge advantage for Crossy. Hatchery coming down for Ziki, and Crossy's going to put down a matching hatchery.
Yeah, it is curious. I mean, one thing is +1 is obviously cheaper, and when you're on 1 gas like that, it is significant saving 50 gas on the upgrade, mostly because it's not about saving the 50 gas, but usually when you have the resources, you want to start the upgrade as soon as possible so that it can actually hit and be relevant in the game. The other thing is, obviously +1 weapons is technically better against, you know, it helps you in microing against Scourge, right? Like it doesn't really help against Scourge, and it allows you to kill them more reliably. So that might be also factoring in, as Ziki has some sick Muta micro, but like Crossy, he's coming in, and at this point, it's really kind of just a dance. There's no one that has a clear advantage. They're both just trying to size each other up, see who can get a couple shots better. But look, I mean, Crossy has so many more Scourge, fewer Mutalisks. If he gets some good Scourge connections, which I think he just did, Ziki lost like so many Mutalisks, and I think Crossy actually gets the really good engagement, and they're both even, but somehow Ziki comes out on top.
Yeah, how did that happen? And he didn't even have +1 weapon. It just now completed. It looked like Crossy had an overwhelming advantage because a couple of the Mutalisks just instantly blew up, I thought, from Ziki. But now he's survived. Now he does have +1 weapon completed. He's got a drone advantage. Despite even taking the gas, he has a drone advantage. So everything is just looking fantastic for him. Now, I don't even think Crossy has confirmed that there's a hatch up yet. Here come those Mutalisks again. They're going to be sharking around, try and find any window of opportunity. Looks like the Nat is what he's got his eyes set on. And this is where decision making really comes into play in ZVZ, because both players have no vision out on the map except for this one overlord. So you got to be very aware of where Mutas could potentially strike.
Dude, Ziki's so nuts, man. That angle was perfect. If he had chosen a different angle, he would have been cut off by Crossy, and he had 4 Mutalisks to the 5 Mutalisks, but with a couple Scourge kind of supporting, and that would have easily taken out Ziki's army there. So Ziki just immaculate play, and now with the upgrade advantage, this is basically all but lost for Crossy, because at this point, like, Crossy's gonna have basically the same amount of Mutalisk, if not fewer at all times, but he's also going to be at an upgrade disadvantage. So in the man fights, you know, the longer this game goes without Crossy having an upgrade, he has to start an upgrade at some point, because as the Mutalisk count starts scaling, the upgrades start scaling with it. Obviously, you know, upgrades are more effective the more units you have. And so Crossy's on a timer. He has to do something, start the upgrade, maybe skip out on a couple Mutalisks. And here's the thing, like, if at any point any of these players skip out on Mutalisks and just make a round of drones and don't get punished for it, that's why you see them constantly moving around. Like, Ziki's kind of darting in and out. He's going to get a couple of drones here, which is going to be huge damage. I think they're probably going to go and fight at this point. Ziki has way more Mutalisks. He has +1. Crossy, with some good micro himself, loses all his Scourge though. So this is just going to be a man fight between the two Mutaflocks, and I think the Ziki flock is just that much bigger.
Yeah, there's just too many Mutas, and this is going to be Ziki taking out Crossy 2-0. It's like 8 Mutalisks left versus 1. Really impeccable play from Ziki, just across the board. Micro, macro, decision making. He can do it all. That's like the first Scourge that I've seen connect all day long. It's just crazy the amount of damage he can do with a handful of Mutalisks. None of these Scourge are connecting. That's 100% not happening. And GG, Crossy taps out. So unfortunately, our Canadian hope is going to fall to the Hungarian hope. And Ziki just looks, you know, Ziki played at a time after myself and other players like Rhett, Draco, and, you know, EG players had quit. So I wasn't too aware of how Ziki played. But, you know, I hear rumors like he was such and such rating. I'm like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Let me tell you, I'm a believer now, because the macro is just crazy. The Muta micro is crazy. And as you were pointing out, the decision making, that's at some level what it comes down to is decision making. Everybody can macro, everybody can micro, but not everybody can make on the spot decisions like he can. It's really impressive.
Yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for words. I think really what stands out to me is Ziki's just calm decision making, and the fact that he's always going for the longer game, always going for those like just long-term plans. Obviously though, his Muta micro there is like an X factor, because that was incredible. I think everything else I haven't seen be too much more crazy than any other player, but really his decision making is a cut above the rest. His Muta micro is absolutely immaculate. I mean, without a doubt, that's clearly allowing him to win consistently in ZVZ. But you know, even that game, man, it was just so, like, think about that. He skipped +1 speed. And usually when you go for, I mean, he skipped or link speed. And usually when you go for these upgrades on the Spire, it's a bit risky, right? Because that's literally one Mutalisk there. And how do you capitalize on having, you know, save the 100 gas that the other player hasn't? And instantly it just goes for that +1 on the Spire on the spot. That's in his mind. That's the translation of like that 100 gas that he saved. And most other players would just be like, oh, I'm just gonna have like a Mutalisk advantage. But that +1 attack was such a concrete advantage from the early game, from the build choice. And yeah, I mean, I'm impressed, man. Like that was really impressive.
Yeah, it was super impressive. So to recap today, we have Dewalt and Ziki making it out of Group B. In Group A, we had Gorinich make it out, and also Krak making out. Krak looked really good today. Very strong versus Gorinich. Very strong in his Terran versus Protoss matchup. So we have 1 Protoss, 2 Zerg, 1 Terran. So I'm happy that 25% of the Terrans did not get eliminated in the first round. Really strong players coming out. But that's going to be it for us today. But of course, none of this can happen without the support of our sponsors, such as Blizzard, Team Liquid, Esports Fun, and Patreon supporters and viewers in the chat like yourselves. And also we want to thank technical support from Making Computer Do Things. We'll get a look at our Patreons and main sponsors here: Blizzard, Esports Fun, Liquipedia, and Patreon supporters. Of course, always at the top, Star Lover. And then we have a couple or a ton of actually other people supporting at the 50, 20, 10, 7, 5, and 2 levels. So thank you very much. It is really appreciated. And do you have any last words for today, Gypsy? I thought the games were, well, especially the last 2 games. I really like those ZVZs.
Yeah, they were nuts, man. We had such a great day today. Yeah, I guess the one last word, I mean, I want to just shout out massively Zero for everything that he's doing for BSL. I mean, the fact that he's here, guys, you have no idea how much work this guy does. He's like adminning the tournaments, he's hosting the replays, he's obsing, he's doing all the production, he's managing all the people, you know, all the restreams and all of that, all at the same time. Nayak and I are sitting here, you know, all we have to do is just stare at the screen and, you know, just run our mouths for 6 hours, which can be tiring. But the fact that Zero actually just keeps doing this for 6 hours, and it's just incredible the amount of work that he puts into this. And there's also a supporting cast, obviously, of BSL crew that you can see on Twitch with the whatever the command is. I forget what it is, but big thanks to everyone that makes it, you know, not just our sponsors, but everyone that works really hard behind the scenes to make this, you know, this tournament a reality. So. And thanks so much, guys, for tuning in, for sure.
Yeah, so that's going to be it for us today. But remember, tomorrow we're going to have 2 more groups, Group C and Group D. And then the following week, we're going to have 4 more groups to round out the round of 32. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. There's going to be great games. And also next week, there's obviously going to be great games. So for me, or for Gypsy and myself, that's going to be it. And thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow.